Abe, just let me know when you guys are ready to get started. I'll call the meeting. Oops. Yeah? Okay. All right, I'll call the February 14th, 2022 meeting of the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission to order. Let's see. Can we do a roll call, Amanda?
Yes. Chair Brian Grover.
Present.
Vice Chair Michael Von Neumann.
Present.
Glenn Johnson.
Present.
Robert Prendergast.
Present.
Mary Lou Schultz.
Here.
Patricia Trouth.
Present.
And June Hansberger.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody's here. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Schultz, would you like to lead us?
Ready to begin?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Oral communications. Do we have any public speakers? Just one. Okay.
Yes, we just have one tonight. We have Rachel Graves. You'll have 3 minutes to address the commission.
What was your name?
Commission meetings, but I just hope, and I also will probably sound like a broken record because I feel like so many citizens like me who have been here since I was born, we feel the same about a lot of these big high-density projects going up, and we feel like we're not being heard. We're not NIMBYs. It's not that we don't want things going through and that we make up reasons why we don't like things. We're very concerned about traffic issues, and it's not because we're worried about sitting in traffic, like Joe Mosca worries about sitting in traffic too long. That's not it. We're worried about if a fire comes, being able to exit our properties. We're worried about preventing our neighbors from getting to safety. We're worried about fire trucks and emergency vehicles getting to our family members, like took forever when my brother died in Olympus. These are the things we're worried about. And I just think we need to be understanding of that. When people come here and say we don't want traffic, it's not because we're spoiled rich people. It's because we want safety and we chose this place to live because of that. I also feel very strongly that there's some conflicts of interest on these commissions, and I know why, and it's because they're handpicked. But I really hope that the commissioners who are on these commissions, when people like the chair step down, that we do not support having people who have a conflict of interest on our commissions. We shouldn't have people who are benefiting financially and politically and professionally making recommendations that is going to affect every citizen in this city. And then several of the commissioners, not on this commission, but go online and are just trashing citizens all the time. I'm not okay with it. And I hope that commissioners who are staying on stand against it.
May I speak as well? I didn't sign up. I just came in late. Would it be okay if I talk for a few minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, I'm Brian Campbell. I live on Clark Avenue near where the Meyer property is. A lot of new faces. I haven't been here for a while until since there was till 3 in the morning. There was all those extended hours with Tony Kranz and Blake Spear and the other individuals that listened to crowds, completely standing room only. That room was completely full about one issue in particular, the Meyer property that was put on very late Actually, I knew, it's the flats, so there's a big Hispanic community. And when it first came out, it was the brochures were in Spanish and English. That didn't have the Meyer property on it. When the Meyer property was put on, there was no redistribution of the information regarding that. That was kind of behind the scenes that I was hearing on that street. There's also like kind of fear mongering that was going on in order to obtain properties. And it was kind of, that's why I got involved in the first place, because I was sad for these people. So I came and started getting involved and thinking about it. That street, I think the moral of the story was that street is very unsafe. Clark Avenue is small. You have to pull over. I mean, every night I'm coming home, you pull over and let that person go, and then you come out. There's no way there's fire trucks can get in there safely. I did overhear there was officials from the fire department standing out there, a bunch of them talking, and I heard them say, there's no way that we could do this here. There's no way that we could do this here. Now, that's the statement I heard. What they were talking about, I'm sure, was, is this safe to run fire trucks down here quickly? There's no way. We just don't have the space there. Another thing I'd like to point out, me and my neighbor, Jeffrey Lyman, he's actually the owner of the Lymans own the property where the shade homes, the alcoves were. They did environmental assessment report on there. There was pesticides 5 feet deep, EPA, no good, high levels of pesticides down up to 5 feet. And the plan that was approved was to dig all that soil up, dig a big hole and bury it there. I just read, as of this week, the plan to how they were supposed to address that. They're supposed to use copious amounts of water, monitor, and have, all these things. They had a 2-foot fence on the property, not even a 6-foot, construction fence. The dust clouds were just coming over. I got a picture of my car where I wrote, thanks, Shea Holmes. And maybe the Shea Holmes wasn't even in charge of controlling the dirt, but that dirt, that contaminated soil was no doubt everywhere all over the neighborhood. Prevailing southwest wind brought it over towards me. I've lost 15% of my body weight. My neighbor is down to 95 pounds and extremely ill. The pesticides in these greenhouse properties are terrible. There are undescended testicles in children. There is respiratory illnesses and a lot of concerns. So please, I don't know. I mean, we just at least make sure that they're using copious amounts of water when they're doing the digging. And I don't think it's a good idea to dig the dirt up and try to bury it in the same spot because it was gnarly. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Amanda, that was the last of the public speakers? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to item 5A, Streetscape Safety and Mobility Restriping Project Plans. Abe and Jill.
Thank you. Just one second, I'll pull up the presentation. Is Amanda able to do it? Broadcast? No. There we go. Thank you for your patience. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jill Bankston. I'm the acting city engineer for the city of Encinitas. And Is that better? Excellent. Okay. Good evening. I'm Jill Bankston. I'm the acting city engineer for the city of Encinitas, and I'm here to share with you guys the project plans for our Streetscape Segment BC Safety and Mobility Striping Project. So this first graphic here shows an overview of the entire Lucadia Streetscape corridor. It extends from A Street in the south all the way up to La Costa. The first piece that's under construction currently is Phase 1, which is that purple rectangle kind of towards the bottom between Marchetta and Basel. That project started in January of last year, and it's going to wrap up this spring. The next piece, that's a big streetscape project that includes the wider sidewalks and the lighting and new trees, is going to be in the north end of the project. And that's going to extend from Jupiter to La Costa Avenue. So that leaves kind of this gap here between Basel and Jupiter. So the project that I'm sharing plans with you tonight is to kind of fill in that gap and provide a consistent lane configuration through the entire project. So the Lucadia Streetscape project is a mobility project. It's meant to take a 4-lane roadway and make it basically a 2-lane roadway. So we're going to have 1 lane of traffic in each direction for vehicles, and we'll add separate bike lanes in both directions. So this project, with the plans that were attached tonight, will have 2 pieces, a piece from Basel to Jupiter, and then a second piece from Jupiter to La Costa. That will be an additive alternate, meaning when we award this project, we can choose to either do just the piece from Basel to Jupiter, knowing that the big streetscape project from Jupiter to La Costa will be coming later, or we could stripe the entire corridor from Basel to La Costa. So I'll run through a few graphics here. We've got a couple kind of cartoony areas that show the different cross sections through this plan set. On the north end of Jupiter, we have a lot of room. So we're able to have double buffered bike lanes in both directions, 1 lane in each direction. And then you can see parking on the west side of the roadway by the businesses. As we get south of Shibey, you'll see 2 lanes southbound in each direction. This is a snapshot that's just south of the Diana intersection. But starting at Shibey in the southbound lanes, we need to have 2 lanes going southbound to accommodate the intersection at the Lucadia Boulevard. So here you see a green bike lane in the southbound lanes, and you still have the buffered bike lane northbound, but it's a 5-foot bike lane southbound. The most challenging cross-section we have is right at Lucadia Boulevard. So we have a lot of lanes to try and fit in a very small area. So we have about 2,000 linear feet of median where we'll be taking out that interior curb and then reconstructing it a little bit further to east to free up some extra space for us, between 1 and 4 feet of space. And by doing that, that will allow us to accommodate 2 southbound 10-foot lanes, a 5-foot bike lane, and then an 8-foot parking lane. So this is the most challenging cross-section right just south of Lucadia Boulevard intersection. So you can see on the southbound side, 2 southbound through lanes, a 5-foot bike lane, and a 7-foot shoulder. We've got some red curb right at the Lucadia intersection, so you can see that red curb there. Northbound, there's 2 through lanes, a left-hand turn, a right-hand turn, and a 5-foot bike lane. So that's really squeezing all of the square footage we can out of that very constrained area. And then here's another snapshot where things kind of loosen up a little bit. We're back to being able to have the buffers. This is a snapshot south of Daphne. So you can see a 4.5-foot buffer on the southbound lane. Then you have your green bike lane, 6-foot green bike lane, and you've got a left turn pocket here at Daphne, and a through lane in both north and southbound directions. And then again, on the northbound side, you've got plenty of room for buffers on both sides. So this talks a little bit about what to expect during construction. So we will have some median work. It's mostly a striping project, but we do have that little bit, that 2,000 linear feet of median work where we're freeing up some extra space. So there will be some noise and some heavy equipment. We'll be coordinating with the adjacent property owners, sharing the construction schedules with them so they know what to expect. And some lane closures while we free up that work area along that number 1 lane so that our contractor can get up in there, demo the old stuff, put up some new formwork, and build that new curb. So that's the end. Anybody have any questions for me?
Commissioner Prendergast?
Yes, thank you. So do you have a graphic that shows us going from 2 lanes? There's a couple of different slides where you've got 2 lanes, and then we have 1 lane, and we have 2 lanes again. So do you have an aerial or a graphic showing us where the squeeze occurs down to 1 lane and then where it expands out again?
So you can see that in the plan set that was attached.
Right. Which I didn't bring.
And then I think it was attached to the agenda for tonight, so I can kind of point you in the right direction.
Thank you.
But southbound, it's going to be right at Shibey. So,
And how, as you look for that how do the engineers think about the backup associated with going from 2 lanes down to 1 lane and then back out to 2 lanes? And does that just slow things down? Is that, I mean, what is the anticipated backup? How far are you going to see when you get constricted like that?
So that's for storage, and Abe can pipe in as our city traffic engineer if he'd like to, but it's based on the analysis that we've done in our environmental document as far as the traffic volumes there, the turning volumes. One of these things that this project will do is it will lengthen the southbound left turn pocket to Lucadia Boulevard. Right now, it's about 150 feet, and then people back into the number 1 lane, and they mean to turn. So we're going to double that. It's going to be about 300 linear feet. So that will help with some of the congestion there. But really, we're looking at traffic volumes. As I'm sure most of you know, it's a really long signal, especially when there's a train coming or you're waiting for a train. So it's really just meant to provide all that storage space for the amount of traffic that we see on the 101.
And do the light times change with the additional 300 feet? Are you going to adjust the light schedule to allow for 300 feet of cars to go? So you're clearing that, or does it stay as is?
The timing will stay the same. It's just meant to pull those cars instead of being in the number 1 lane to give them that space so that you have 2 free lanes going southbound.
Oh, what page should I be looking at in your deck? Can I get my printout?
Yes, if you look at page 10, you can see between, right at Phoebe Street, so there's 2 lines of signing and striping. So right at Phoebe Street, you can see before it's 1 lane, and then it starts widening out to accommodate the 2 lanes southbound.
So it's pretty short space then where it just squeezes down.
When you open up to 2 lanes, you can do that pretty quickly. When it narrows back down on the south side of Lucadia Boulevard, that takes a little bit more time to go from 2 lanes to 1 lane.
Thank you.
Could you,
Commissioner Schultz?
could you give more information on what you're doing with the sidewalk?
So this project is just meant to be a striping project.
Striping.
So none of the other streetscape features with this project, just the striping.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was hoping, first of all, thank you very much. The plans look great, and I'm really excited about it. Could you please go back and show us what a few of the slides where you were showing what the bike lanes, right here. I was just see, again, I can't see it because the closed captioning covers it. Is there a way, to just, to see what everything is, like the sidewalk and I just couldn't see what all of the different lanes were.
Yeah, so the sidewalk itself, I didn't actually measure that. I just assumed 5-foot sidewalk because we're not touching or changing the sidewalk. But for this particular spot, just south of Daphne, we've got 8-foot parking lane, 4.5 feet buffer, a 6-foot green bike lane, 10.5-foot southbound lane, about a 5-foot median there, and it's generally, in some cases it's paved, in some cases there are trees, some cases it's striped. And then we've got a northbound left turn lane that's 12 feet wide, a 10.5-foot wide northbound through lane, a 4-foot buffer on the inside of the bike lane, an 8-foot green bike lane, and then a 3-foot buffer on the outside of the bike lane.
So are the bike lanes, the smallest bike lanes are 6 feet? Is that what I'm seeing on here? I just was I couldn't quite read them all because it kept getting covered up. Is that, and then this.
That real quick.
Or,
Yeah. There you go. Is that better?
Thank you. That's
You're welcome.
fabulous. Yes. And then while we're here, I wanted to look at this, but I do have 2 other questions before. They are, when will the construction for B start, or when do you estimate that? Is it funded? And then how will the decision be made for construction on Part C? Because I think you said that maybe it would be, maybe it wouldn't. Again, how is that decision made? When would that start? And is that also funded? Thank you.
So we intend to bring this to City Council on Wednesday, and then we could advertise it next month. and then bring it back to council to award the project. And what we'll do is we'll provide that information to city council. Segment B was this much, B plus C is this much, and we'll ask them to determine if they wanted to award B and C or just segment B. So it'll be a city council decision for that. We have partial funding for this project right now, and staff is working to identify the other funding through closing out old projects that aren't moving forward and looking through other available funding sources. So when we bring the project forward to council to award a construction contract, we'll be looking to have the full amount that we need.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Oh, Commissioner Prendergast.
On this slide, there's I think that's the northbound lane. Bike lane is 8 feet and the buffer is 4, and on the other side it's 6 and 4.5. Just walk me through the difference between, I understand probably on the left-hand side it's going to be a little tighter, but I mean, to even things out, when you're restriping, can you just, what's the math behind an 8-foot bike lane on one side and a 4-foot buffer, but there's only a 6-foot bike lane and a 4.5-foot buffer? Why not make the bike lane 6 feet on both sides and give yourself a little bit buffers to make it safer between the biker and the car? I guess that's just the...
So if we had a striped median, we would absolutely do that. But through here, we have a bunch of gorgeous trees, and we don't want to take out all of the trees that are in the median in order to be able to shift things and kind of even stuff out. So we're trying to work with the pavement that's available on the outside of each of the medians.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Commissioner Von Neumann.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on the question about the schedule. So are we looking at a year, 2 years?
No, we're looking to start construction likely at the end of the summer, or maybe at the beginning of the summer. Sometime in the summertime is our expectation. We want the phase 1 project to be wrapped up and get that contractor out of the 101. We're talking about whether we should take a break, a pause for the summertime or not, or if we just want to get this project moving forward. So we'll give that discretion to City Council.
Okay, thank you. I have some other comments, but if you want it.
I'll just jump in. I think I just have one question, I guess. How does this seems to be a little bit different than the actual Lucadia Streets North Coast Corridor, streetscape plan for these 2 corridors? Is this like an interim solution and then the rest gets figured out later?
Yeah, it's meant to be an interim project to kind of tie the north end and the south end and give a consistent lane configuration through the entire corridor while we look for money and we explore these new federal funding opportunities and look for ways to fund the actual streetscape, full streetscape project through the entire corridor.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Let's see. Good things about this project in my mind are that there will be a single travel lane southbound from La Costa, except for between Phoebe and Europa in that area. I like the idea that there is a marked Class 2 bike lane southbound. Some of it is buffered. I also like that there's no thermoplastic planned to be applied in the bike lane. I do have some concerns about where it goes into 2 lanes of traffic. It looks like in that section where I'm talking southbound, when there's 2 lanes of traffic, the bike lane turns into a 5-foot wide, non-buffered bike lane. A few months ago, or last year sometime, the city consulted with Encinitas Bike Walk and the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition on these striping plans. Both entities stated a preference to keep the Sharrow lanes in the number 2 travel lane and felt that a 5-foot wide bike lane between a vehicle traffic and parked cars is actually more dangerous to cyclists. If a cyclist has to swerve out of a bike lane to avoid an opening door, they can be placed in front of moving vehicles in the number 2 travel lane. Sharrow markings and bicycles may use full lane signage, help to increase driver awareness that slower moving traffic may be in the lane. If a Class 2 bike lane exists, the vehicle code, California Vehicle Code, says bikes have to ride in it. They cannot take the travel lane unless there is an object in front of them, then they can go into the travel lane, which might put them in front of speeding cars. You cannot have a Sharrow lane, this is my understanding, you cannot have a Sharrow lane next to a Class 2 bike lane. A 5-foot wide bike lane, essentially, next to cars that are parked, is what is commonly called a door zone bike lane. Now, a 5-foot bike lane, in my understanding, is a standard accepted width, but I am not comfortable with a 5-foot wide bike lane next to parked cars. This issue of a 5-foot wide bike lane also came up when people were looking at improving southbound Highway 101 between Swami's and Chesterfield, and this commission at that time had expressed their disagreement or opposition to a 5-foot wide door zone bike lane, and that was removed from the plans. So, you know, I really, really wish or would hope that more thought would be given into keeping Sharrow markings in the number 2 bike lane where it is on southbound, where it is 2 lanes of traffic. I understand there are probably some people that don't like Sharrow lanes, understand. However, like I said, they do help increase motorist awareness that there is other acceptable mobility users that can be in that lane. I ride my bike a lot on that South Coast Highway in that section, and what I found, you know, in the past year or two, cars are very aware of bicycles in that lane in that stretch. It's very busy, especially on weekends. So I understand, you know, I would love to have Class 2 buffered bikeways on both sides, northbound and southbound. I understand, that would be great, but I think in this section where there's 2 lanes, it is more dangerous for bicycles, and I think we're not accomplishing much. We're actually putting more people in danger. And also, when I was looking at the plans, south of La Costa intersection, we're talking southbound again, the travel lanes are marked 11 feet. Until just about Berry Brothers and everything. While the bike lane is 7 foot, there is no buffer on the diagram for that 7-foot wide bike lane. You got 2 11-foot travel lanes. So I don't understand why the bike lane can't be buffered just south of La Costa Avenue. So I would suggest reducing travel lanes to 10 or 10.5 feet as they are along the corridor, even farther south. Having a narrower travel lane just south of the intersection with Acosta will also help slow traffic down, because if they got a green light at La Costa and Vulcan, they're going 45, 50 miles an hour into our city at that border. And having wide lanes just encourages people to drive faster. So, you know, I don't know why we have to have 11-foot wide lanes there. Also, I also recommend that we put down speed limit pavement legends just south of La Costa. And if this is going to take a year or so to get done, that's a year that people and motorists should know that the speed limit is 30, and it's just paint. So those are my comments on the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Commissioner Schultz.
I strongly support what Michael said. I live in that area, and people are not coming into Encinitas going 45 miles an hour. They're coming in going 60 miles an hour, and they're running the light because I see it every day. So I'm very concerned about that intersection having, I really don't see the need for two lanes of driving, actually. I would be happy with 1 lane of driving and 1 lane of Sharrow.
Okay, thank you. All right, should we move on to the next item? And Amanda, I forgot to ask, but do we have any public speakers on any of these agenda item 5? We have public speakers on 5C. 5C, okay. Great. Okay, agenda item 5B, Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission meeting schedule. Abe?
Can I interrupt just for a quick second? I'm sorry,
go
Abe. I do want to say that the Lucadia Streetscape project around El Portal going north is looking really good, and it is very safe, so thank you. And I also want to thank Jill specifically, individually, who is super responsive to any questions that I may have for her and for the staff. And so I really appreciate that. And I know it's not an easy job. There are a lot of different influences and concerns and everything, and it's hard to keep it all straight, but I do appreciate your responsiveness and positive attitude toward everything. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Von Neumann. All right, schedule.
I think I have a different agenda. But yeah, for a schedule, yeah, the one I have, Amanda, is probably before you edited that. Sorry. The schedule update, Lillian couldn't be here tonight, our department director. New direction we received from the city manager's office and our director was that due to various issues we had with staffing, we are modifying our annual traffic commission. Thank you. Annual Traffic Commission calendar, a few canceled meetings, which will be posted, obviously, on the city website. The July meeting with the council going dark in July, we're canceling that to match the council calendar. December and January, because of the fact that the city started being closed from Christmas Eve to after January, and the vacations that the staff have this year specifically, I was out for about, I guess, 30 days, and then another 2 weeks immediately after for COVID. So I was out around like 45 days. Another staff member was on vacation. So those two meetings, we don't have the resources to have the meeting and have the, I mean, I thought about having Ian run the meeting, but he didn't have, he wasn't here for more than, I think, 1 or 2 meetings. So I thought it won't be that beneficial to the commission if we just try to have a meeting without really having proper agenda. Because of staffing issues, we cannot have those meetings in January, specifically because we come back only a few days before that. And December, usually because of vacations. And there's also one meeting that falls on a holiday. I think the second meeting, I think, is October, if I'm not mistaken, on a federal holiday. Obviously, that one we can reschedule if commission wants to. We can have a special meeting. I think we did it once 2 years ago, that the commission voted to have a special meeting on that night that fell on a federal holiday. We can do it in advance of that meeting, maybe 2 months before that, and then we can post and then modify that date. But these are the 4 meetings that from this year we will not have on our official traffic mobility commission meetings. That's about the schedule.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Commissioners.
I have a comment.
Commissioner Von Neumann.
I'm not in favor of canceling any of the meetings. I think we should be able to work around scheduling issues. I think the city is competent enough to do that. There are too many important issues that are going on in our city. There's too many important things that the residents are concerned about for us to be canceling meetings. That's my opinion. If anything, I don't even mind having 2 meetings in 1 month if it means not having to cancel any meetings, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Prendergast?
I agree. I mean, if we have enough lead time, I think we can all find time. We've all done Zoom meetings for the last 2 years. Worst case is, if we can't meet in person, then we can, whip up a Zoom meeting. That seems to be easy enough to do. So I agree with Commissioner Von Neumann. Find a way, make it happen.
Abe, is that what Commissioner Prendergast brought up about, having a Zoom meeting instead of an in-person? Is that an option available, or is it we're just either in person or Zoom and you can't kind of flip back and forth?
I doubt it, Chair, but I can definitely check with the clerk's office to see if that is a possibility. I doubt it because I do remember there was a similar case. Amanda, do you remember? I think there was a case like this, right?
I just spoke with the clerk's office about it, and it isn't an option for us
Okay.
to do any Zoom meetings for commission.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, I
thank you.
think it was a member. Yeah, I think it was a member that couldn't attend and suggested to join via Zoom, but clerk said no. So even an individual, because we used to have one commissioner, I forgot his name. Charlie. No, Charlie was here. Before that, there was a gentleman who couldn't attend. Arnie. Yeah, he used to attend via conference call, but then I think recently clerk announced that we cannot have anybody conference calling in or Zooming in. So we have to have presence.
So, Abe, just so I understand, so the desire to remove 4 of these meetings, you mentioned staffing. So is it the staffing required to address items that would be on those agendas, or is it literally the staffing for the night of, like we're doing here tonight?
And in advance of those meetings, I mean, there is time associated with preparing the agenda for the item to be, discussed internally, what needs to happen at the commission, what needs to be presented, the future council meetings associated with the items. Many of the action items that comes here tonight or at commission nights, they go to council after. It's a mix of, I would say, staffing and, in general, being able to present whatever we bring here afterwards to council.
Understood. Okay, so that helps me understand it a little bit more. I guess that means that overall, this commission and the associated, staff-driven agenda items would be, we wouldn't be able to review as much as we currently review. It's not like you're going to be stacking the agendas for February, March, April, May, June, these other meetings that are still here. The intent is to kind of scale everything back.
Tough to say since we haven't had a year with 8. I think we had a few years with 11 or 10 meetings. I don't think we had one with 8. And again, I still feel like the October one, since it's not really a staffing issue, it's just unlucky that our second Monday meeting of the month falls on a federal holiday a lot of times. We can easily check the calendar and just reschedule that one and just make it a special meeting. So it might be more like 9, I would say. But how it would work out and how, I guess, short we'll be at these meetings and how much we can cover and how much we can't, it's really tough to say.
Okay.
I mean, there might be some nights that we have a lot going on. Like tonight, I had a lot and I anticipated like staying here until like 10:30, but we'll go over like LRSP, we're taking it down. If it was here, we would easily be here for like 3-4 hours. So there will be nights like this, but I really can't say we will scale back because a lot of the items we have mandates per Muni Code, per the nature of the project, that we have to bring it here before going to council. So we cannot really just not bring them here before going to council. So those items will stay, but we have to find a way around it.
All right, thank you, Abe. Commissioner Prendergast.
I don't know if you know for sure, but how many other commissions are going to have an abbreviated schedule?
I'm not aware. I can double check
Just the
to find.
Traffic and Mobility Commission will be cut by 33%.
I guess Planning Commission, they're lucky to have around like 8 different planners that can handle a Planning Commission. Traffic team, unfortunately, is a team of 3 engineers. So,
Commissioner Johnson?
I'm not clear whether this is due to a staffing shortage in the traffic engineering department or what, but it seems like if we're going to depend on special meetings, this could mess up some of our summer schedules, and I'd prefer to have some of these meetings put back, as a tentative meeting at least, and then they can be canceled later on if there's not enough work to justify them.
Abe, is that a possibility?
let me check to see what our options are.
Okay.
I think we do have to announce them on the city calendar for residents to know that these are our meetings during the year. But if we can have like a tentative meeting and then maybe cancel it a month before, if there is a situation, I'll have to check. I'm not aware of how the clerk's office would want us to do that.
Great. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Abe. Next item, 5C, updates on safety and mobility projects citywide, including but not limited to items 1 through 10. And Amanda, I think you said that we had at least one speaker on this. Commissioners, do we want to take the speakers first, or probably should? Is that okay? All right.
Great. So yes, we have 5 speakers on this item. When I call your name, please come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes, and your comments are being recorded. We have Angela Sheeb, followed by Steve Sheeb.
I think your mic's off. There should be a little button there.
Somewhere here?
Oh, oh, you got it.
You got it?
Maybe
Can you hear me?
pull it down a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, okay. But it seems like it's on. Hi. So I'm Angela Shibey, and I live in Lucadia on Del Rio Avenue. And I'm here because I have concerns about the Myers project that is being built, 199 units behind a very, an old nursery area. And even though it's well located close to the train stations and everything, it just does not have any direct access to an artery road. So the whole traffic that is going to be generated in this project, which is over 2,000 trips per day, something like that, is going to go through the little streets of our neighborhood. And our streets are very narrow. We don't have sidewalks, most of them, and barely can fit two-way traffic in them. So I'm here to pledge for the Traffic Commission to decline this project and help us not have it built, because it's definitely not an appropriate area for what it's going to bring into there. Besides, the whole development is building for California, maybe affordable housing, allowing less parking in their property, so they're not going to be fully self-parked. And all this new parking is going to be flooding the streets and creating a danger to children and elderly like myself. So I just would like to ask for you guys to consider those about that Myers project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Steve Shibey, followed by Marty Musick.
Good evening. My name is Steve Shibey. I'm Angela's husband. I'm a longtime 30-year resident of Lucadia, and I would like to express pretty much the same concern that Angela has regarding the traffic concerns that will affect Clark principally, but also Union and Puebla. Right now we have outside our house a barrier that was constructed with the authorization of I believe the Traffic Commission and City Engineering, and the barrier was put up shortly after we moved there when Lucadia Boulevard was opened for the Encinitas Ranch project. And the object of the barrier was to reduce the traffic flow that would cut through. And now we're going to have, with the Clark or Meyer property development, at least, I believe the Traffic Commission has done a study on that, and I'm not sure the exact number of vehicles that was calculated, but if we have 199 units, there'll probably be an average of 3 people per unit. We'll probably have somewhere around 600 vehicles and probably 1,000 or maybe even 2,000 trips per day. And so, as Angela mentioned, our streets are narrow, and at one point, probably 10 years ago, Farmers Insurance actually canceled my policy on my home insurance because they alleged that there was a problem with the fire service having access there. And so I can only think that if we have more and more vehicles taking up more space on the streets because of overflow parking, that we're going to have serious issues with traffic and safety in the area. So I would like to speak clearly and make a plea that the Traffic Commission analyze thoroughly how many trips a day and the possible concerns that we have for safety and traffic flow. Finally, I'd like to thank you all for spending your time and your efforts and addressing all of the issues that the city faces. Encinitas is a lovely place to live. I've lived in many different places in the world, many different countries, and certainly Encinitas is at the top of the list. And I think that all of us here want to maintain a certain character and but recognizing also the needs that we have for affordable housing, for equity and development at the same time in the city. So I want to thank you for your efforts and thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marty Musick, followed by Mike Grudick.
Well, I wasn't sure if I was coming to the meeting, so I wrote a letter, which I'll just go ahead and read. I have lived on La Mirada Avenue for 43 years. When we moved in there, it was a very quiet neighborhood. There were one family pretty much living on each property. Now we've got multiple families. We've got boarders in houses. We've got accessory units without enough parking. And so in the evening and on the weekends, both sides of the street are completely blocked with cars. So you can hardly have guests come over because there's no place to park. So let me see. On those times when the streets are full of cars, parked cars, delivery trucks, work trucks, trash trucks frequently block the streets. Even anyway, the idea of eliminating the east side street parking on half of Clark, which is something that we heard was going to happen, where it's narrower coming off of Puebla. As they were talking about putting a red curb there. That will not alleviate the gridlock. The backup at the Clark Street light is going to be impossible. Closing off Puebla has had the desired effect in our neighborhood of safer conditions on La Mirada, Del Riego, and Del Rio. But even the so-called temporary removal of the barrier during construction, which is something we heard that they were intending to do if this project gets going, it will be a safety disaster for those streets because there are no sidewalks, as was already pointed out. Pedestrians must navigate around parked cars in order to walk down those 3 streets. Just imagine an ambulance trying to reach an apartment inside this project at 8 a.m. when Clark Street is blocked with cars trying to reach the Lucadia Boulevard access to the freeway. The emergency vehicle might be able to get in using La Mirada, Puebla, Clark, but how would it get out? Not by Clark. It's blocked with cars waiting for the light. No use going up La Mirada, Del Riego, or Del Rio, because there's no left turn onto Lucadia Boulevard. So the choice is Saxony, either making a U-turn, Lucadia Boulevard light, or exiting the project on Union, which could also possibly be blocked with cars. Either way, it will add precious minutes to an emergency trip to any of the local hospitals. Then,
could you please wrap up your comments?
Yes, I'm almost finished. Then imagine a large fire truck or 2 trying to access this project. So short of building a bridge at Union Street that goes across the freeway, I don't see how this project is in any way feasible.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mike Grudek, followed by Craig Campion.
Hello. I have some pictures that I took today on Clark, and I live at the end of Clark where it's narrow, and they threatened us that they're going to red curb it. That won't solve the issue. The street itself is not wide enough to sustain two 10-foot lanes. I took pictures today of 2 cars on either side of the road, and there's 15 feet between the cars. 15 feet. I myself, yeah, right there. That's 20 feet from the curb to the end of the tape measure. That's 15 feet between those 2 cars. So are you going to red curb the whole street? How do you do that? I myself have had to call the police trying to get my RV down that street because they parked on both sides and I couldn't even get through. And the police show up and say, there's nothing we can do. So, and you got to imagine, by law, they can park 16 inches away from the curb. So it even gets smaller. So when they're at the 24 feet is what they have where they say they're going to red curb it. And they have off-street parking, which is 78 inches wide, 78 inches off-street. Imagine 16 inches off of that, and now you're sticking out into that two-way street. And then if you go forward, again, I wanted to show that white truck was actually in that person's property. That wasn't even in the easement. That was on their property. That right there, from that curb to that pole, is less than 20 feet. That's less than 20 feet. So where do you make a 2-lane road when you can park? You can see how you can park farther in than the telephone pole on that street. If you keep going here, that turn lane going onto Clark is 8 feet wide. 8 feet. You can't, legally, I can't even get my RV down that. It doesn't even fit. My trailer doesn't fit. The 2 turn lanes are barely 9 feet, a little bit under 9 feet. If you go forward, you can see this is trash day, so you see how the trash is. Imagine that being lined with cars, and go to the next picture. This is what happens every day. Those people. So imagine there's 10 cars backed up in that turn lane. Where do these people go? When you can't make that right turn onto the street because it's too small. The street cannot sustain the amount of cars that you want to put on it. It just can't. It's not legal. I was here in the mid-90s when they did a traffic survey when they closed Puebla because they were putting the light at Saxony. And they said, too much traffic. It failed in the mid-90s. We've doubled the size of the people in that community since then. So how today is it going to pass with another 200 units down the street? And they'll use that throughway to circumvent the light. They'll go through that and use Clark to circumvent that Saxony light because it'll be a throughway. So I get it. So
Thank you.
you know.
Thank you.
Next, we have Craig Campion, followed by Brian Campbell.
Hello, Craig Campion, Poinsettia Park Court. So you've heard from all the people from Clark, and I think what's happening is people are trying to get ahead of the curve because I think Brian mentioned it, that this project kind of got slipped in there on a late night meeting, closed door secret meeting by Catherine Blakespeare. So obviously people are upset. Just wanted to give you a little brief feeling on what I think is happening. It's strictly a political agenda. Catherine is running for the state senate. Catherine needs the Democratic Party's support, which she's got, and Catherine needs to cooperate with what the legislature is doing, which is try to get the affordable housing units in. So Catherine needs to go along, push this thing through, and also get the developer PAC money. So obviously, people are upset now. I was kind of surprised when the gentleman said red curbing the street because, yeah, this project goes through, it's 200 units, and from when we talked to him, we did a walkthrough in our neighborhood, I think he said there's only going to be 160 parking spaces, but it might have been up to over 200, but that's still a half a space per unit when everybody knows there's going to be at least two cars per unit. So it just doesn't make any sense. It's a horrible project. For traffic engineering, you're going to hear arguments for other reasons, but when it comes in front of you, you're going to see this is a joke for traffic engineering. So just a little more background, the Planning Commission, when this went up a few years ago, the list went in, the Planning Commission went and okayed every project except one. And they said, Clark, take Clark off. They could see this was really unfair, a disaster. Tasha Boehner-Orvath was our city council person at the time. She was the only one to vote against the list that was passed through. And the reason was Clark. She said, take Clark off. So the voters, they saw this. It went to the initiative. The vote went through. The voters voted against the list. A lot of it was because of Clark. Obviously, the state went ahead and said, no, you got to come up with a plan. And Catherine Blake Spears said, we're just going to push through what we had. And it's too bad. So people don't like it. So obviously, people are upset. We're just trying to get ahead of the curve. We're going to see you later when this comes back before the commission on a full hearing. But no one was here from Union, and I don't know if anybody's driven down Union on that side, but that is not even a two-lane street. It's like a lane and a half. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And our last speaker is Brian Campbell.
I sent a presentation to the help desk. Is there a way that we can present some of the pictures?
It's in the X drive under Brian Campbell.
Yeah, this was presented to Blake Spear and the whole city council during public speaking. It's more of a kind of educational for you guys, just because I put a presentation together. I'll talk about it once it gets up. Yeah, I think Measure U would have passed with flying colors for sure.
Can you speak in front of the
Yeah, there's no doubt. I'll wait till that's up. Thank you. Okay. Can I control it with this?
Kieran, can he control it?
Okay, next slide. There's concern. I've got a 4-year-old daughter. I don't let her go anywhere near the road. I have a fence, so she can't go out there. I've seen people almost get hit, dogs almost get hit, and people complaining all the time. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. It's dangerous. Next slide. Okay, so here's just a layout of where the new housing development, that was the Shea Homes, the alcove. Alcove, as we know, the word alcove is actually a tight niche area, so they actually named that the alcove, and it's funny because it's in this little tiny tight space here, and now we're talking about putting 200 units at the end of this little small street. It's crazy. Next slide. Okay, some of the landmarks on the far left is the fire station, Quality Inn. Okay, just so you guys know, on the east side of the Clark Avenue, there's a narrow sidewalk. You actually have to walk around the mailboxes. And then as we get down to Puebla, there's only half of the street has a sidewalk, and then it stops. And then for reference, there's 19,000 members at that time that are with the YMCA and Drive on Saxony. Next slide. So here's a little traffic flow. Let's see, departure patterns. Okay, so if you want to go 5 south and you're in any of these 4 streets, Clark, La Mirada, Del Riego, and Del Rio, people drive down to Puebla and go on to Clark so they can get to the light and go left. Okay, so all of the flow from this whole big block of housing that you see here goes on Clark to get to this 5 south. Okay, next slide. Returning, if you're coming down Clark, people come into, come Clark. So if you're coming westbound on Lucadia Boulevard and you have any kind of a sizable vehicle, there's no way you can do a U-turn there. Actually, even trucks can't do U-turns. So everybody flows down Clark Avenue. So any large truck, there's a lot of landscaping equipment trucks, any truck that's coming can't do a U-turn and go to their adjacent street. It all comes down Clark. Next slide. This is showing that little tight, there's no way you can do a U-turn right there. So everybody comes down Clark, like I just said. Next slide. Here's just a couple pictures. You can see that the bottom parked truck is on the left side. There's a van there, and then there's a vehicle on the right, and you can see how narrow it is. Here's the bottom right picture is a typical day. Cars parked legally on both sides, and it's tight. I drive this every day, and actually the top right truck is, I know that guy, and or maybe that's not my neighbor, but at any rate, that's actually Mike showed, this is leading, the top right picture is leading up to Lucadia Boulevard. It's like there is a little left turn lane there to go west on Lucadia, but there's no way that you can get this many vehicles down that street. Thank you for listening. There's a couple more pictures maybe, and you can have a look at them at your leisure.
Thank you. Any more speakers, Amanda?
That was the final speaker.
Okay, thank you all. Abe.
Thank you, Chair. It's not on my regular updates, but we did have several emails on the same topic, and I believe this situation, our residents being concerned and they want to express themselves and their opinions and comments about a specific development projects happened a few times before. I think we have to do two things to clarify Commission's role about these development projects. I think it all happened a few months ago when we started to have this extra informational only item at the Commission agenda. I think Commissioner Prendergast was who suggested it. Before, we never had residents come to Commission and expect Commission. I heard some residents say, we're asking the Traffic Commission to decline this project or reject this project. I wanted to have your opinion, Chair, and the Commission. We have two options. One option is to add something to this information-only page that we provide to the Commission to clarify what the Commission's role is, and maybe the residents read it and understand what the Commission's position is and role is and what the purpose of this item is, or to just take it off the agenda and just Amanda directly emails it to the Commissioner in advance of each meeting. Because to be honest, I feel for our residents who come here to these meetings expecting a Commission action on items like this, while the Planning Commission is basically in charge of these decisions. And I guess the most that our Commission can do is just maybe write a letter or something with the Chair's signature to the Planning Commission or to the City Council that this is our Commission's opinion on this matter. But I want to hear, because I really don't like this, because this is, I think, the second or third time that this is happening. I think we once had it with the Rancho Santa Fe project that we had residents come in. I want to hear your side. It's not on our agenda, but again, for the next future meetings, I think the second option I think is better, to just remove this item from the agenda, just send out a 2-pager, 3-pager, whatever development project we have to the commissioners in the form of an email, or just have it there and add an extra page to it to clarify Commission's role. So if residents see it, they know what the Commission's position or role is on these.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
I was going to say, as a Lucadian, number one, thank you for coming and speaking and bringing this to all of our attention. And Abe, I agree that I think we need something in there that says this Commission doesn't make a decision on this. These are just updates, right? Is that what you're trying to clarify? Because my question was, and one of the gentlemen said, we need equity in development, and we definitely need equity in all of our neighborhoods, which I completely agree. And I think part of equity is just having this conversation, and I realize it does take time, but But I think also having this posted on our agenda does help get the word out to all of the neighborhoods, wherever these projects are, that this is moving forward and this is what is happening. And because it gets people's attention and you can voice your concerns with the project. And the truth is, I wrote on here, what are our options to help, Abe? And I think what are our options? I was going to ask you, what are our options? And maybe on the top of this, you can say these are non-action items, just information. That and maybe that's how it could be stated. This is a non-action item. This is just information. But I actually feel pretty passionate that I really like seeing this on the agenda. And before I was on this commission, I really always went to look and see what was happening on the development project because I wanted to know. So, I'll let my other commissioners weigh in. My vote would be to keep it, but put something up there that says this is non-action. This commission doesn't vote yes or no on these projects. I don't know how you want to word it. And then again, my question back to you, both of you being, our traffic planners, how can we help? Is there a way that we can help? Because I don't know if we can. It all goes to planning, correct?
So when this idea came up a couple of months ago by Commissioner Prendergast, it was because a few of the commissioners mentioned that we hear from our residents about different projects, and they expect us, being traffic commissioners, to know about these projects and be able to provide them extra information. 99% of the times, we don't even know what these projects are and what's going on with them because they're not presented to us. At that point, the goal was to provide this, a summary fact sheet or a short summary of the projects that are ongoing that month in the city, various stages of their approval, to give the commissioners an idea of what these projects are, how big they are, where they are, at what stage they are, basically to give them an idea. And then if a commissioner has concerns, has questions, needs more information, we can bring them back next month as a presentation on that specific project, give them the traffic impact analysis report, give them the impacts, the mitigations, basically a detailed more information on that specific project. Both of these would be informational only, obviously, because Traffic Commission doesn't have any approval or rejection, but we can provide more information to the Commission. That was the goal. Now, it can be the case here. The Commission can say, hey, we'd like to know more about this project, bring us back a presentation next month. We want to know what the traffic impacts are, what the project is, where the access points are, what the circulation trip distribution is, what's going to happen to various intersections. But at the end of the day, whatever impact comes out of that project, what the mitigations are, what we want to approve, we want to reject, we don't have that authority at this level. But again, I can provide you whatever information the Planning Commission received, and we can talk about it as much as we like.
Thanks, Abe. I guess I would just want to add, and maybe we can make this a future agenda item to discuss this, and we can bring in someone from the planning department or something like that. But I know years ago, we've had several joint meetings between this commission and the planning commission, and this commission and city council. And at least speaking for myself and my role on this commission, we've sort of been, delicately asking for a little bit more review authority, I guess you could say. And to me, things like this are a great way to, I don't know why an applicant couldn't bring their project to us and present it to us just from a, mobility and traffic safety standpoint right before they go to Planning Commission, knowing that Planning Commission is going to look at objective design standards largely related to design. To me, this falls squarely within the realm of mobility and traffic safety. So I don't want to ruffle any feathers or create any additional work, but I don't know that it would be that hard for an applicant, a developer, to come and present to this decision-making body and just have us make a motion, knowing that it's going to go to Planning Commission and they'll ultimately decide, just like how we make motions that then go to council and they can overturn what we say, just so that we can have a discussion and let the public have a discussion that's strictly focused on traffic, where the Planning Commission hearings are focused on everything, right? The height of the buildings and the density and the architecture. And sometimes I think the traffic component, is, I think it can have its own hearing, and this is the commission where that could happen. So again, I'm not asking to create any additional work, but it seems like it makes sense. So maybe there's a reason why we don't do that.
If I wanted to guess, I would say, because I've attended a lot of planning commission meetings, and it's technically when it comes to topics of concern, traffic is always up there. So the majority of the things that you would think would be discussed here are being discussed there. We always have a representative, like traffic team has a representative there. Our engineer is there, liaison to the planning commission team. So all these questions are asked, all these concerns are expressed. Long night, as I'm sure you're aware, and they have 2 meetings. A lot of time they have 2 meetings a month, and projects are discussed in detail. I think it would be a little bit redundant, to be honest, to have similar discussions here. And then again, to create this rule for the traffic commission, to be honest, is a bit above my pay grade. I guess this is something that needs to be passed to the city council by the traffic commission, and then city council can provide that direction to the city manager to create this role for the commission. But I personally going to our planning team and saying, well, when projects want to go to the planning commission, if there is a specific major traffic concern, please bring them to the traffic. I'm not sure if this is a role that I can play. We cannot define, well, I guess we can ask for it, but how it's going to fly, I don't know.
Okay. So, sorry.
Excuse me?
Sorry, we can't take
Yeah, we
any
can.
speakers right now. I'm sorry. I think I'm.
Your statement was, you understand what it is.
Yeah, I'm not. I understand what everybody wants. I'm just trying to understand why we don't operate that way, and if there's a possibility to operate that way. So, Abe, maybe even if it's not like a formal requirement, if as you said, for projects that have an apparent traffic impact, maybe it's just the housing element sites or something like that, just an informational item. I think we've been asking for that kind of stuff for a long time. We don't need to have any authority over it, but just to be able to, have a discussion about it when at the appropriate time. For example, right now we're and I think this is consistent with your comments. I'm not educated on the Clark project beyond just what I know personally. We haven't had any presentations at this commission, so we can't really respond. Whereas if we had been presented to it by the applicant or something like that, even just as an informational item, we could have an educated discussion, I guess.
The only thing I can say is I can ask the development services director to see if this is an opportunity that he's willing to ask his planning team to provide to us. That's all I can do.
Okay. And I'd say otherwise, I think unfortunately this isn't the right forum, and I'd say focus on the planning commission hearing where this is discussed, more formally. Commissioner Von Neumann.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming out and sharing these thoughts. I personally do not mind hearing about these issues. I like this information about the development stuff. We have different eyes on projects also, so the more we know about a project, the better educated I feel, and the better I'm able to give opinions or recommendations or something like that. So I see absolutely nothing wrong with having this information presented to us. It seems as if, like Brian mentioned, maybe having an applicant bring a project forward. If they had done that, I would have said, well, this street is way too narrow. What's going to happen? Now, I don't have any authority to make any changes, but I would like to have an answer to that question. And I think the more opportunities there are for people to share their opinions and feelings about certain projects, the better. I don't like siloing certain things, saying, well, this is only the purview of this group. This is only the purview of this group. That may be true for decision making, but as far as information gathering, communication, and transparency and everything, I have absolutely no problems having people come and talk about any development project that's going on in the city. And it also helps me understand, oh my gosh, the impact. What are the impact of all this? I'm not educated enough to give any qualified or educated opinions, perhaps, but you know, I am on the commission because I care about what's going on in our city, and so I like to get the information.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Johnson.
Yes. I gather that our city traffic engineering department gets involved when the planning department has the project. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So you, Abe, and your department then review the traffic plans that the applicant submits.
Correct.
And have you reviewed this project yet?
I personally don't review unless there is a specific concern that I need to. We have an engineer that is in charge of our development review process. His name is Pedro Masudi. He reviews the traffic impact analyses. If there is a major point of concern that I need to be involved, if there's something specific that because there's a lot of studies, like we get around 3 or 4 of these every month.
Yeah, has Pedro been involved in the Clark Street project?
Yes. Yes, I know that he is reviewing it. There was actually a meeting on it, I believe, yesterday. Last week, but they were supposed to have another meeting. The matter about the red curbing came up, that he talked to me about it. So I do get involved every now and then, but if you ask me like how many trips are going to go toward I-5, I cannot give you the answer to that off the top of my head.
Okay, so basically, as far as our commission is concerned, we wait until the planning commission gives us a mess to clean up. Once there's a problem, then it comes before this commission.
Well, the Traffic Commission and the Planning Commission, I would say, both have the same goal. It's not like our planning commissioners are just there to approve projects without, considering various concerns of the city, pollution, traffic, congestion, delay. They do concern all these goals that our Traffic Commission has. It's just a different body with a different authority. So,
Yeah, and I understand that our authority is limited to making recommendations to city council.
correct. Again, there's nothing that would prevent from this commission to review anything that is safety-related, traffic-related. We can always review, we can provide our comments. If you tell me to bring Clark back next time with a presentation on it, we'll review it within our authority, which is providing recommendation to council. Traffic Commission can take a position. We can draft a letter. I can draft that letter. Commission can draft a letter. We can send it to council. It is with our authority. There's nothing wrong with that. But to create an action item to approve or reject or officially create a condition for the project, we don't have the authority.
Okay, so Abe, maybe what you just described is sort of that happy medium that we can at least, step into for the time being. And if there's a project that, appears to have some sort of concerns related to traffic, we can just make it an informational item, and you and Pedro can come and present it to us, and we can just discuss it based on what's been presented, not based on, what we've heard on the street or what may be true, what may not be true. We can ask questions and then, write a letter to, I think Planning Commission would be the appropriate body to send that to. And then at least we will have discussed and provided a venue for the public to discuss traffic specifically, not nested in with the larger project approval.
Absolutely, yeah. That I think was the original purpose of this letter, that we review, we go over these. You ask me a few questions. If to the extent I know, I'll provide information, and then you can ask for more information at a future date. We'll bring a presentation item, and then commission can discuss it.
Okay, that works for me. Commissioner Prendergast.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that sounds like something that I would support, just so that we can vet this information and have a discussion.
I think I asked for this a few months back for this very purpose, this is a perfect example that we'll just call it the Meyer property. Yes, I could look at the city council agenda, or not, either city council and the housing commission, or I can look at the planning commission agenda. But I think the idea was intended to be a forum for our citizens. I need to be informed as just a regular citizen, commissioner or not a commissioner. And having somebody come and talk about issues of safety and parking and traffic is why I'm up here. So the idea of having the planning department come and let us know what's going on. There's a lot going on in this city. This is a perfect example. So now what do? Well, I'd like to probably find out a little bit more about how your department looked at their concerns, and we can talk about the project. We can talk before it goes to the Planning Commission for approval. Now we can look at just the traffic impact, what the impact on the Clark light is going to be, what's the impact on the sidewalks. This is what we're supposed to do. So, we might agree with them, we might disagree with them, but it gives a chance for the citizens to be informed, a chance for us to be informed, and just be better community residents of the city of Encinitas. We're not always going to agree, but at least it's a forum for us to be knowledgeable, and it gives them a chance to understand the process within the city, and whether it's the stop signs in front of the Capri Elementary School, or whether it's the bike lanes, which affect all of our city, we have some impact. We're all appointed by our respective council members, so we're all technically representing our districts. And I do think that just having a little bit of a nugget of information, at least it opens up the discussion. We find out what we can find out. And I'd like to find out why the street gets so narrow and why there's no parking, there's no sidewalks on the other side. It might be money, it might be that's what the zoning is, but okay, well now I'm informed and so are they. So I do think that it's helpful to have it on the agenda. If you want to put the additional comment about what our commission does and that we're not, an approval organization, well, then that's fine too. But at least it gives our residents a forum to come up and discuss it with us with them, us with you, and then we can take it up to the city council or the planning commission. I think that's what we're here for. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? I'm looking around. Commissioner Johnson.
Taking that one baby step further, would it be possible for the commission to ask Abe and Pedro, who I think is in your department, to give us a brief presentation on just what's going on with Clark Street? We've heard so much from citizens about it, and that's just a little corner town that I never drive through.
So, yes, as I think was discussed, I think the best approach would be commissioners see this list, ask questions if there is any. If I can answer to the extent I will. If not, at the commissioner's corner at the end of the meeting, commission can vote to bring 1, 2, or as many as they like off those development projects back to the commission. I can ask my team member to come and provide the information he has. I will ask the planning director to provide a member of the planning team. Obviously, they're not in our department. So my director cannot ask that member to attend. I have to ask the development services director. If they can come, they will, and provide the extra information that our engineer might not have the responses to. But it would always be at a future meeting. We cannot do that right then and there.
Okay.
Okay.
So just to be clear, we will propose this revised protocol to our management team, and they'll have to weigh in on it because, as you know, exactly what the commissioner had said, the planning department has kind of always brought forward projects to the planning commission, new projects, and you guys have always kind of dealt with the existing infrastructure. So they're kind of two separate pathways. So we'll just have to bring this proposed new protocol to our management and have them weigh in it, and we'll get back to you and let you know what the response is.
Okay. Yep, Commissioner Prendergast.
Well, I think as a resident of Olivenhain and a resident of Encinitas, I think if the Goodson project had come to the planning commission, or excuse me, the traffic commission, I think the discussions about traffic and fire and safety would have probably had one more forum for the residents of the community to discuss and vet. And so what happens is sometimes these projects get all the way to this planning commission and we've never seen it. So it creates a situation, as you said, Michael, that we're dealing with the mess, we're dealing with the leftovers. And I understand our role, but at the same time, if you can talk about these things in steps in advance before it gets to the planning commission, well, then maybe some of these issues could have been vetted. We could have had discussions about fire life safety. They talk about ambulances and all these different things. They affect all of our communities regardless of where we live. So I just think it's another avenue, another forum of which we can be informed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on.
All right.
Olympus. Yep.
Yeah. Shall I continue with the?
Oh, yeah, I'm
okay.
sorry. I was just going to move to Olympus Park restriping, but yeah,
Oh, okay.
go through the list. Yep.
Yeah. I guess I should have started with number 0 before with development. Number
you.
0 is just before this meeting, I was notified that this might be our chair's last commission meeting. Might be, it's still not 100%, but it seems like it. He actually mentioned this to me. So I wanted to go on record and thank you, Chair, for your, I think 5 years, 5 years?
I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
Enough to term out.
Yeah. Number of, well, you were here from the time I started, so
Yeah.
at least for about 4 years. You know, in March it would be 4 years.
Yeah,
I
it's
think it's
been
more
fun.
than that. I think it's like you were here for 2 years when I started, I think. So yeah, I appreciate your help and support to the department, to the city, and wish you all the best.
Great. Thank you, Abe.
So now item 2, Olympus Park. So these are my regular monthly updates. I'll go through quickly because we're 90 minutes into the meeting and just add our regular monthly updates.
Don't make my last meeting my longest meeting.
Yeah, I'll do my best. And it's Valentine's evening, so let's try to get home at least in time to see our Olympus Park restriping. I'm not sure if you've seen, we did do a restriping on Olympus Park. We had some issues with parking and some conflicts in front of the park between opposing vehicles. So we went out there and did a quick restriping to kind of clarify the path along that curve and also clarify where people can park and cannot park. I drove there. It's a little bit better. It's a little bit slower. But we had a lot of concerns from the residents. It kind of slowed down, I guess, after the honeymoon period of the park kind of ended. Still very busy, but not as bad as I would say the first few weeks. And the striping certainly helped. El Camino Real restriping, almost done. The road is repaved. A lot of the bike lanes and buffers went in. We will have some physical barrier. It's not yet purchased, but we were a little bit short of money when this thing was budgeted. But we will be adding a physical barrier in the near future. Considering the speed of El Camino, I think it's a beneficial addition to the bikeway. South 101 cycle track.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Did I hear you say you're going to put up verticals?
It's not on the plan. It's not on the plan, but the plan is to do it in the near future. It's just a heads up. On El Camino,
Northbound, southbound? From where to where?
the area of the project that's between Encinitas and Olivenheim.
You mean from the Livenham Road to Encinitas Boulevard, there are now going to be bollards?
Not now, I said. It's not on the plans. We are considering it in the future. We don't have the budget for it, so it's not on the plan. Well, originally, when this was presented to OMWD, bollards were on the plan, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But when we signed an MOU with the OMWD to construct the project, we took out the bollards from the plans.
Yeah, I've seen different iterations of this plan. I've never seen verticals or whatever you call them, bollards. And that's shocking and surprising. And I would definitely recommend not doing those.
Well, when the time comes, we'll bring it to commission, I'm sure. It's not on the plan now. Vulcan Avenue restriping is still on the books. It's budgeted. We just had a very hard time finding contractors the last 2 months of the year. I think we just received a a contractor's offer to do the job for us. It's very hard. It's similar to every other contractor job right now in the country. You cannot find people to do the job no matter how much you pay. So it's a similar case. We actually had it up for like 3 weeks on this site that we had around 60, 70, I think, contractors on that list, and nobody even applied for our job. Nobody expressed interest to do our job. So we're continuing, but I think we had an offer on this one for somebody to come do the job. Similar with the Costa Walkway, I think we have a contractor on board for this. Should start very soon. North 101 improvements. Jill went over Streetscape, segment B and C. Segment A is almost done, close, I guess. Glen Arbor speed cushions were implemented, were installed on Glen Arbor. A little bit different from many of our other roads because of how narrow Glen Arbor is and the wide separation between the two directions, but it's there. Grant updates, I do have 3 grants. I initially had 3 grant updates on our action items. All 3 are finished, I guess 99%. But one of them we're taking off the action item and continuing to our future meeting. So I'll go over those. Some other signing and striping, these are smaller things, but since we didn't have 2 meetings, I thought I'll let you know about them in case there's a question or there's a comment. Additional share was added on La Costa east of 101. For Lucadia and Hermes Roundabout, RPMs were added and keep clears were painted. Sometimes when the westbound traffic backed up from the signal on Vulcan, it would get to the roundabout and then wouldn't provide space in the roundabout for Hermes to get into the roundabout and go east. So we added keep clear boxes in the roundabout to clarify for westbound traffic that they shall not occupy the roundabout when they're waiting for the signal on Vulcan. The Hygeia and Lucadia crosswalk, the one that will have a roundabout soon, the crosswalk was converted to a ladder style. It was existing, so we converted it to a ladder. McKinnon speed legends, we painted 25 mile per hour speed legends between Park and Birmingham. Crosswalk on Morning Sun was converted to yellow crosswalks across Morning Sun Drive. Lone Jack Crossing, we added some crossings, crossing ahead legends at several Lone Jack crossings in Rancho Santa Fe area. We are working on designing crosswalks on Lone Jack and Camino del Norte on Rancho Santa Fe. I should be able to update commission on the design next month. There were keep clear boxes installed on South Rancho Santa Fe, on Rancho Santa Fe south of Encinitas Boulevard. Urania area striping, we modified the striping to allow parking on the west side of Urania. There was room, but it wasn't clear, so we narrowed the lanes down and opened up some space on the west side for parking. Via Cantabria and Encinitas, the eastbound left turn was a little bit unclear. It would sometimes create a little bit of conflict when eastbound wanted to left turn onto Via Cantabria, especially for vehicles turning right from Via Cantabria onto westbound Encinitas. So we added some dash lines to kind of separate vehicles going eastbound left turn toward north to separate them from Via Cantabria vehicles. That's about it. I did mention the update about the Vulcan traffic calming. That is still ongoing, looking for a contractor. La Costa is happening very soon. And yeah, that's my monthly updates. I don't see anything else. If there is any questions about these.
Could you refresh my memory on just what the La Costa Walkway is?
So southwest corner of La Costa and Vulcan, we are connecting Vulcan and La Costa to the bridge on the west and to 101 signal. So there is a missing gap between the Vulcan intersection at La Costa and the bridge where there is no walkway. And we have residents coming up Vulcan or west on La Costa and they cannot go toward the bridge because there is no walkway. So this is a pathway, a walkway that will build on the south side of La Costa between Vulcan and the bridge that would connect residents toward 101.
But there's still no plan to make a walkway along Vulcan to get to La Costa Avenue?
Along Vulcan, we did have that plan that I mentioned was brought to the commission and then went to council later on. The one that forms a walkway majority of the way on the east side of Vulcan, but at Andrew, it goes to the west and then goes along the curve of Vulcan toward La Costa to kind of improve the west side. But that's a walkway. It's not really a pathway. It's more like a striping on the ground and setting space for pedestrians. So it's not a concrete project or DG or anything like that. But that one will provide a walkway, provide a path, I guess, for pedestrians on Vulcan to get to this corner.
It's very dangerous right now. There's a fence that comes that close to the curve, and you have to step out onto the road on Vulcan at the curve. It's very dangerous. And
I will look at the plans. I do believe that on the west side of Vulcan, before getting to that southwest corner, we do have enough right-of-way to form that walkway. Again, it's not going to be concrete, but there will be a clear path for residents to get to that southwest corner.
Abe, could I just ask you, I think that the apartment building that's going in there on the corner of Vulcan and La Costa is also going to be providing some infrastructure. Sidewalks is that correct?
That is correct.
I think, pardon me, I think that might address some of the issues. I think they're going to provide a sidewalk, and I think some of the bank is going to be cut back and the road is going to change a little bit there. At least that's currently on the plan, correct?
That's correct, yes. That was, I believe, one of their conditions of approval. I think that small road, I think called La Costa Court, just south of La Costa on the east side of Vulcan. So it forms like a tiny little triangle on the southeast side of Vulcan and La Costa. They are conditioned to continue. I'm not sure about south of that road. Maybe I have a vague memory that they also are connecting to the southerly sidewalk, but I'm sure about this La Costa Court being connected to the intersection of Vulcan and La Costa. So basically their frontage and that bank cut, they would have to create a wall and build a sidewalk on the east side of Vulcan between La Costa Court and La Costa Avenue. But that's, I guess, 2-3 years out minimum.
Yes, I'll see if I can find the plans and get those to you. I know you'd be interested since you walk there all the time.
Keeping track of that apartment
Yeah.
thing, and that's going to make it even worse than what it is right now, quite frankly.
What about the west side of Vulcan as you're approaching La Costa? There's this little goat trail around the house and the fence. Is that what you were?
About this wide.
Right. Is the city doing anything about that section?
Correct.
Is that city property?
Correct. That is city property, yes. So we do have enough room there. So the walkway that is narrowing down the lanes on Vulcan and opening up a space on the east side of Vulcan happens all the way from Encinitas Boulevard to Andrew. At Andrew, there will be RFP and a raised crossing that would send people to the west, and they will continue along that path that you mentioned toward that La Costa walkway that we're building. So we're trying to get people to the southwest corner so they can go toward the beach. And that stretch would be where we would have to kind of widen and open up and clean up to provide enough space. I mean, it's not the best, but it's, well.
Yeah. What's the time estimate that'll be done?
Oh, the plan is ready. We're just looking for a contractor to build it. It's funded, yes.
Okay, anybody else, or should we move to?
Yes, I have.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Commissioner Trell.
So I wasn't real clear on how we kind of finished things with the Clark Avenue project. So are we going to have someone come and present the project, or is this kind of conceptually that we're thinking about perhaps doing it in the future? I just wasn't clear on what we decided on.
My understanding is I will receive a direction from the commission during the commissioner's corner every month if they want to bring back an item at a next meeting to get more information on it. Jill is my boss right now, so she suggested that we take to our higher up because it's a new approach that we haven't been taking. We haven't had development review per se officially at our commission meeting. I mean, it's still, since it's a presentation item, it will not really be a development review, but I do believe her suggestion was a good suggestion to take this to our higher up to make sure we're not setting a precedent that is not accepted by our higher up. So it will be only for this specific one. As soon as I get the green light, we can continue doing it for the future. So you see these informational items on different development projects. You have concerns, questions, or you heard something about one of them, you ask me, Abe, next meeting, we want your engineer and a planner. Again, that planner may or may not attend depending on, the planning director, because our departments were separated. Planning and engineering used to be in the same department, now they're separate. But again, that's something I can ask for, and we'll see how it happens. But for this first one, you provide the direction, I'll check with our director and the city manager's office, and if it's something that's green lighted, next meeting, I will bring our traffic engineer who reviews the traffic studies, and I'll also check on possibility of having a planner here.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Prendergast.
A while back, there was a presentation made on calming Rancho Santa Fe Road, and then they talked about some designs around, how to, I guess you looked at traffic circles and a couple different places, and of course those needed to be engineered, needed to be funded. But there were some other parts of Rancho Santa Fe Road that could have been funded or has been funded. I was just getting an update from your department on really where we are with Rancho Santa Fe Road and maybe narrowing the roads and building out the sides for bikes and things like that.
We are working on the crosswalks. As mentioned, we are designing those. We actually were there last week, 2 weeks ago, checking the ADA requirements, because if we are improving the crosswalks, we need to bring the ramps and corners to new standards. So we're doing a cost estimate and a design on those, but we are actively working on improving the crosswalks. Nothing right now on the actual striping modification. It's a pretty long stretch and will be very costly.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So next up, we have the approval of the minutes from our, it was all the way back in November 2021, November 8th, 2021 meeting. Do we have any discussion, motion?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. Do we need to use our fancy new voting thing here? Let's give it a go. Why not? I already forget how to do this. Isn't there like a little... Where's my thing? Yeah.
I'm sorry, was there a second?
Yes. Commissioner Trout was the
Thank
second.
you. Okay.
Click record,
How do we vote?
then start voting.
And then they should.
Push the A. Or the nay.
All right. That's fun. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. Sorry to put you on the spot there. Okay. So we are on to our action items. I think item 7A, and Abe, you can provide more clarity here, but item 7A is going to be postponed to a later date. Planning needed a little bit more time to prepare the presentation and.
Correct. The item, it's a report on the local roadway safety plan. It was a grant that we received from Caltrans in the amount of $80,000 to conduct a study, citywide analysis of traffic safety. I do believe they presented once around later stages of the study to the commission, I feel. The study is finalized. However, we received direction from City Council to conduct this Vision Zero implementation action plan analysis study that includes a few different components, one of them being this Vision Zero. That task was given to our Development Services Director. So they want to see how this LRSP works with other ideas and opinions that they have with the mobility element and with the other pieces of this Vision Zero that they want to put together. So they asked me to put this on hold because my next step would be the city council after the commission. They said, we want this to be a component of the Vision Zero. So give us 2-3 months before we have our Vision Zero together, and then we can incorporate this into the Vision Zero.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, let's just move right along unless anybody is.
We're not doing 7, or we're not talking about the local roadway safety?
We are not. Nope.
I spent all the- I
You
spent all
can't
that
talk about it.
time
You
studying
can't
it.
even talk about it.
It will come
Okay.
back.
You can talk about it in a month or two. Okay, item 7B, City of Encinitas streetlight standards. I just found this out, by the way, otherwise I would have told everybody.
So 7B is, let me turn on, it's, so another grant that we had, HSIP grant, Highway Safety Improvement Grant, I have provided updates to the commission before. It's a $720,000 grant that we got from Caltrans to upgrade old low-pressure sodium, high-pressure sodium streetlights of the city in, I think, 7 or 8 major corridors of the city, Encinitas Boulevard, Lucadia, 101, a lot of, basically most of our major corridors that have old lighting, the ones with super high glare and a lot of uplight, to be converted to more efficient LEDs that have better efficiency, provide more light output with lower wattage, less power consumption. Basically, we want to convert them to the Cadillac version of lighting. And one thing we noticed that when we decided to retrofit and replace them, that we don't have a street lighting standard in the city. Basically, they were replaced by the decision of that staff at that time. There was no standard. Lights could be different, different vendors, different specifications of that lighting fixture. So we used this opportunity, used a small portion of that grant, hired a specialized consultant, do like a photometric analysis, light modeling of the city to find out what the spacing of our lights should be, what type of fixture should be used, what the lumen output of those lights should be, to give us an idea. So a developer wants to build a number of houses in front of a road and there are no lights there, they come ask us, okay, what type of light are we supposed to put? How many poles do we need to put in front of our property? So this is basically the cheat sheet that the engineer will go to. Okay, your road is this wide. This is the classification of your road. This is the spacing that your poles should have, and this is the type of fixture that you're supposed to use. The direction that we provide to the consultant was, because there is a standard for roadway lighting, believe it or not. It's a ANSI standard for traffic safety lighting. They have to provide a uniform lighting, so you cannot have super bright areas and then super dark areas. And there is like a minimum lumen output at a square footage of the roadway that you have to meet if you're providing lighting. There are a bunch of different factors and standards, so when they do a photometric analysis, the system will tell them if this light is okay or not. Long story short, they came up with, as an engineer, these numbers don't mean much, but they're specialized. Again, something that I've learned during the process is that these type 3, type 2, lumen output is pretty obvious, like the higher the lumen output is, the brighter the light is. The type 3, type 2, type 5, apparently, these days, the street light fixtures not only have the level of brightness that they have, that would be that lumen output, but also they have how they distribute the light under them. So it could be a very narrow strip of light that they throw on the ground for narrow roads, and it could be a very oval-shaped light that they drop down, or it could be like a circular light that they drop down. The lumen output, all these 3, 4 lights are all the same, but the way the LED is designed in there, it has a bigger reach for the narrow one. So the smaller the type is, the narrower that beam of light underneath that light is, and it has a higher reach, but it doesn't go that much in front of the mast arm. So it's good for, I guess, residential roads, super narrow roads, if you want to put a light on them. If the road is 20 feet wide, if you put a light there, you certainly don't want the drop of light to the house in front of the light on the other side of the road. So you want to get these super narrow ones that really doesn't brighten up anywhere else other than the road itself. When you get to a wider road, you go to a type 2, type 3, type 4. Oh, I guess type 4 is a different. It's like 2 or 3. 4 is has a weird, I think 4 is more for intersection lighter. Anyway, it's just something that was interesting to me. I thought the commission needs to know. But that's what they're suggesting for our different roads. As you can see, they kind of classified different type of lighting, and they've offered spacing based on the pedestrian activity at various classifications of road that shows the spacing and the type of light that needs to be used at these locations, with some more specifications on what the engineer should consider when choosing the light. That's about it. The reason I brought this is, again, this is a Caltrans grant, so we need to get council approval before we go to Caltrans and ask for construction money. We only have design money at the time that we already spent on this. The next step would be out of that 720, I think around 670,000 is left. So after, hopefully we get commission's blessing, we take it to council, council approves this, and then we go to Caltrans with the council approval and ask for the $670,000 construction money. I'm open to questions if there is any.
All right. Thank you, Abe. I don't have any questions. Pretty straightforward. Other commissioners?
It's a rhetorical,
Commissioner Prendergast.
I'm full of them tonight. It's a rhetorical question, but I'm assuming this all conforms to the dark skies light patterns that the city has?
Correct. I guess I should have mentioned this. So one thing, again, information I learned during it's not really a traffic engineering thing, but I learned a lot during this study. The new LED lights have all this thing called bug rating. Bug stands for, is an abbreviation of backlight, uplight, and glare. So backlight is the level of light that the fixture throws back behind it. Obviously, in residential areas, you absolutely don't want any backlight. You want it just to drop light right underneath the light, nothing back. So it creates this, like, the ones with a zero rating for B create like this wall of light under them that if you walk like 3 feet behind the pole, you don't really see anything. It's pitch dark. And U stands for uplight, which is the concern for dark skies. The majority, like 90% plus of new LEDs are zero rated uplight. They do not, because that's absolutely a waste. You don't want to have any uplights. If you get a 10,000 lumen output light that has a rating of uplight, that means you're wasting some of your lumen output sending light up the air, which doesn't worth anything. And then G is glare, which again, the majority of lights are zero. So something that is very usual when they sell LED fixtures these days is that our bug rating is 000. That is basically, if you find something that doesn't have a 000, that's usually not a very good light.
And then with the grant, does the city then get money from Caltrans and then start to go replace lights throughout the city? And I'm sure there's a priority of old lights, new lights. I'm thinking specifically on Lucadia Boulevard as you go west from El Camino Real up the hill. You just see stoplights and no one's there. It's just traffic. So things like that.
Correct. This grant was won right about the time I arrived the city. The corridors were defined in the grant application that are supposed to be retrofitted with this money. A few things happened during the past 3-4 years that this was underway. One was city by itself with its own funds replaced a lot of these lights that were originally on the grant application. So when we go to the same corridors, we don't have as many that was originally anticipated. And the second is one of the few things that the prices are actually down from 4 years ago is LED lights. The competition, the technology. So when the grant was submitted to Caltrans, the number of lights that were anticipated to be covered by this money was a lot less than what we can actually afford right now, so which is a good thing. So we probably can do a lot more with the money.
So we've had the money for 4 years.
We didn't have the money.
It's taken 4 years to get to the point where we can go out and buy a light bulb and put it in.
I said we don't have the money per se. When Caltrans awards you the grant, it's just a piece of paper. You have to go to them like 3-4 times during the process. At every stage, they ask you like for design. You go to them, you ask for a design money. They give you like $50,000 to do the design. You come back and you say, okay, I want a clearance. You got to do your environmental clearance. You got to go through right-of-way clearance. If there is a light that's not yours, so there's a lot of hoops that you have to go through. It's not like Caltrans comes down and writes you a check for that amount, and then you can do whatever you like with it. So $670,000 out of this, $650,000 out of this grant, we don't even have it now.
Okay.
So it's like a 30-page package that we have to send, including council's approval, that it would take 2 to 3 months from the time they get that package, that they will send you the authorization.
Well, I know a lot more about that than I thought, but sorry about that. I appreciate your time.
Ask and ye shall receive.
Thank you very much, and we'll hope by the end of,
I'd like to make a motion
this
that we
year.
approve
Can we discuss more first?
the recommendations.
No, a lot of cities, a lot of bigger cities, they don't apply for these grants. It's like when I was in Long Beach, the city was rich and they would never apply for HSIP grants because they said, well, the staff time associated with processing these grants doesn't worth it. 500,000 here, Abe, just go do whatever you want to do. Don't apply for 500,000. So.
Great. Sorry, Commissioner Johnson, I couldn't tell if you were.
I've noticed that some areas seem to have special ornamental fixtures, and I'm wondering if we'll honor the desire to retain those with LED replacements.
There are ornamental LEDs. They can be replaced. Obviously, the ornamentals would have some uplight because of the way they're not shielded, I guess. If they want to replace them with a type of ornamental lighting that has some sort of a cover. But this standard covers it. It does provide what type of lighting you need, but how we want to change the actual housing to that fixture. This talks about fixture only. This doesn't talk about what type of housing we want to use for that fixture.
Okay, but I have noticed that many developers, for instance, use a peculiar Spanish-style fixture or whatever to be part of their development. I don't know what Encinitas does in particular to that. And I've also noticed that in other cities, some streets have, the neighbors have gotten together and decided that they want some kind of ornamental lighting in their area. And we have a procedure for that, I'm sure. The other concern here is, I think if we're writing anything concerning lighting in the city, we want to give honor to our dark skies area.
Yeah, I guess, as mentioned, these all have zero uplight unless we use a type of housing that we put the fixture on top of it and it's spreading light all around, and there will be some uplight. But on a standard roadway lighting with a mast arm that they're shielded on top, there is no uplight. So
Okay,
dark sky
I'm
will
just
be.
raising these points. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? I think we have a motion from Commissioner Schultz. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Let's do our fancy voting. Yep. There we go. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. And our last action item of the night traffic signal modifications in the city.
So similar topic. This is another HSIP grant that we won from Caltrans. This one, I believe, 3 years ago, or 2 or 3 years. It was before COVID, and 4 signals in the city. Quirrell and Lucadia intersection, Lucadia and Vulcan intersection, Vulcan and Encinitas Boulevard intersection, and Scripps Driveway, Vaughn's at Santa Fe. These 4 intersections at their minor side, obviously on this one being the shopping center and the Scripps access, minor being Vulcan at Vulcan and Lucadia, Vulcan and Encinitas Boulevard, again minor being Vulcan at Lucadia, and minor being Quail Gardens Drive at Lucadia. These 4 minor sides at the intersection, with this grant in the amount of about $500,000, will be receiving protected left turn phasing. Currently, it's just a permissive, so if a vehicle wants to turn left, they would have to find a gap from the opposing side. But with this project, we will be modifying all those. So let me show one. Well, it's a signal plan. It's a civil design for the signal, but it gives you an idea of how the mast arms will be. So not all of our traffic plans are this complicated, but the signal plans are actually some of the most complicated plans. So the circles are the locations of the loops. The black arrows are the signal faces. This, for example, on the north leg, this is Encinitas Boulevard and Vulcan. So right now at Encinitas Boulevard, we only have one signal on the mast arm facing northbound Vulcan. If you go from the City Hall toward the intersection, you only see one. This will replace it with a longer mast arm, and then we'll have another signal head, and this tiny little arrow on top of it is a left turn arrow. So that would mean that vehicles going northbound, they will have the opportunity of having a green arrow for themselves. Northbound left turn will get a green arrow, and then similar to that, southbound left turn going toward the freeway. I think the computer froze on me. Yes, it froze. Okay, but I think it was too complicated for the computer too. So it has a similar approach for all these. Let me see if I can go to a different one. Yeah, it totally froze.
Yeah.
Okay. So similar for southbound, there will be a left turn arrow for southbound left turn. And then we have a similar design at the other intersections. We do have the opportunity to provide a completely protected left turn phasing at the ones that have left turn pockets. For example, Quail has a left turn pocket. So we do have a stacking room. Usually where there is no stacking room, where there's no left turn pocket, your only option is to provide like a permissive left turn where you just provide a short protected permissive. You provide a short period of time for left turn protection turn, and then you open it up, and then it would be like existing where they still have to find a gap. Kind of like what we have at the City Hall access on Vulcan. You get a few seconds of green, and then it's permissive after. But usually you can do that when you have a left turn arrow. On these ones, we're all adding left turn arrows for them, green arrows for the left turn.
Hey, I have a quick, can I ask a question?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, sure.
so when you say permissive, it doesn't give you an arrow, but it just stops the flow on the other side, and you stay green while you get to go, right? Is that what you're saying? Because
No,
I've
there
seen
are-
intersections like,
There are three operations. One is permissive. Permissive is where you don't have a green arrow and you do not have these, I guess we call them doghouse, the five signal indicator. In these ones, let's say what currently Vulcan and Lucadia is. So when you get to the Lucadia, the vehicle behind you might want to go through, but you want to turn left, and there's only one green signal in front of you.
Right.
So you just wait there to find a gap, and they come at the same time. Southbound has the same opportunity. If you want to turn left, they can turn left. So it's called permissive. The opposing traffic has to basically permit you to turn left with the gap they provide you.
okay,
Protected permissive is where there's no pocket, there's no stacking area, there's no dedicated left turn, where you give the opposing vehicles only a few seconds of left turn, and then you open it up to through traffic. That's what we have in front of City Hall. So you give like 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, depending on whatever we define in the system. That's the safest approach. You have the green arrow in the doghouse situation. You have the green for left turn. And then the vehicles turn, and then you have the flashing. The flashing is you're still permitted to turn left, but you have to be aware that it's not as safe as before. Before you had like the left turn just for yourself. There was no opposing conflict. When it disappears and the flashing appears, that means you can still turn left, but you have opposing traffic that you have to, that's the permissive piece of that operation. The totally protected ones is what we're all used to, the standard.
arrow.
Yeah, you have your own left turn arrow and green, and when you turn, there's nobody coming, and that's protected.
thank you. Rookie question.
It's just the yellow light.
Yeah, and this is how the signals will operate. These are basically the different phases of a signal that when it operates. So there's 16 phases. This is the toughest signal in the city. This is the Vulcan and Lucadia signal that we have. This shows how the pedestrians work with different phases and how each phase will turn on each green. And I don't know if it has it. Okay, it froze on me again. But yeah, you don't want to know. So.
Yeah.
So,
Something on the over.
sorry, this PDF is not working, but basically it's just a signal plan that, again, we want to get council approval on, and then go get the funding for construction from Caltrans after council approval.
So the Caltrans grant is for $500,000. Is that just for the planning, or is that for?
No, for construction.
Okay.
That's unfortunately, I mean, as good as the previous one was, because of the 3-year delay, now we can afford more lighting. This one is the opposite. Everything is now way more expensive, so it probably won't cover the cost of these 4 signals.
Okay. Thank you, Abe. Commissioners, questions?
Yeah, one question. So there'll be a left turn arrow on Vulcan going south at Encinitas Boulevard, so I can take so I'll have a left turn green arrow to go over toward Lazy Acres. Is that
Correct.
the name of the place?
Yes.
Mr. Peabody's.
Correct. Okay.
All right.
Anybody else?
Yeah, when I read through that, it was quite a thick document. It looks like a detailed engineering plan, and it's grant money, and it's going to make things better. No
Yep.
objection.
Hard to argue with that. Free money, improvements. Let's do more of this, Abe.
Oh, it's not free, Chair. It's not free. Yeah, Caltrans has a 5-page document providing directions to cities how to fold their documents when they want to submit. So,
Yeah.
I kid you not, there is a document how to fold to cities when you want to submit. This is how you're supposed to fold. And they reject submittals because of wrong folding. So, yeah,
Yeah. All right, we've got a motion.
I'll
Second.
second.
We have a second from, who wants it?
I've done two.
Commissioner Johnson?
Okay.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Let's vote.
All right, was pretty quick this time.
You're getting good, Amanda.
Yeah.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right, moving along to the follow-up log. Haven't seen this in a while.
So the San Alejo crosswalk, first item, I actually was discussing this with Lillian today. The Verde crosswalk, it seems like due to funding issues, we don't have a good ETA on that. I'm not sure if it was approved by council. I think the crossing itself is approved by council, but I'm not sure if the design is funded. The design is almost complete, but I think it will be shelved. I'm not sure. I think the cost estimate was like $10-12 million or something. Because of that, we do not have the opportunity of, at the moment with the funding we have, connected to the CRT. So if we add a new crossing on Verde, it would lead to really nowhere on the west side of San Alejo. We do need to have corner improvements. Retaining wall might be needed. So the raised crosswalk would have some traffic calming effect on San Alejo, but it's really not a very efficient project. So there is a lot of cost just for the sake of getting a raised speed table, basically. The crossing will not provide us, because there's like I don't know what it's called, but it's like a drainage thing right at the west of Verde. I can pull it up on the map to give the commission a better idea. But I think we will shelve this unless commission has a strong opinion on it. We did evaluate it. So as you can see on this side, if we want to create a landing, we would need a retaining wall. Similar on this side. So if we want to create a ADA corner, we'd have to basically cut into this area and create a curvy returning wall to create a landing pad here. Same with here. It would need a lot of work to create a corner landing pad. Either way, if we go down across San Alejo on this corner or on this corner, we will get to this area. That would mean we would have to move all these. And then this area, we don't have a very good connection to the trail because of this, I don't know what it's called. It's like a BMP, yeah, it's like a water. So it's not easy to connect to the CRT. So this basically would be a crossing that would lead to nowhere. So the only gain off of this will not really be the crossing. It would be only like a raised speed table, traffic calming. So it would be too much, I guess, for just a small traffic calming gain. So I don't think we would recommend this going forward unless commission has this is not funded. We were waiting for Verde to see if the Verde undercrossing is happening, then this can be incorporated into that and we can do something interim. But it doesn't look like Verde undercrossing is happening anytime soon. Mobility element update. We had a few meetings. The SB 743, the traffic study guideline is almost complete. I'm not sure if it's going to Planning Commission anytime soon, but they did wrap up the first piece of the mobility element that was the traffic impact analysis guidelines of the city. We are not overseeing data study, as commission knows. We're just the support for the planning team. If they need to involve us, they do, but The project is not managed by us. It's a planning effort. Not much new on the cycle track. Phase 2, obviously, we are finalizing the design. We are taking it to council in March. But it did go to the council meeting as commission had voted for, and then it was reviewed, and there were some comments that were received at council, but nothing new on the first phase. E-bike policy, nothing new there. We haven't really had any activity on the e-bike policy. The crosswalk evaluation at La Costa, that's TBD. We, as discussed a few months ago, we were waiting for the streetscape to go in before potentially modifying that signal for that diagonal crossing that we talked about. The crosswalk evaluations at the intersections, we did collect the data. We did do some analysis at many of these different locations. However, the funding for these did not find its way to our work plan that went to, I guess it went as a presentation to council. It didn't go as an action item. But we don't have the funding for these. Each one of these would cost us around $30,000. So I will bring it to the commission when we get closer to our next fiscal year budget. We can review these at the commission. If commission wants to recommend this to the city council, we can add this to our next fiscal year's work plan and see if council wants to fund these. But the data is collected and we are ready to present them. Local roadway safety plan, as said, the study is finished. We do have the report. I will bring them to the commission as soon as I get the green light from our Vision Zero team. Rancho Santa Fe corridor, I updated the commission. We're working on 3 crosswalks, one mid-block around, I forgot the name. It's north of Lone Jack. One is Lone Jack and one is El Camino del Norte. These 3 locations will get 3 crosswalks. The one that's not at a stop control intersection will have RFB. The stop controlled ones, we will not put RFB for the first phase. It would just be a high visibility crossing with improved corners. Not much on Encinitas Boulevard at Ballure for St. John. Manchester and San Alejo crosswalk, we did have a meeting to discuss that. We did have a site visit, but nothing new on that yet. I will bring a better design to the commission. Bike and ped improvements on Manchester east of the freeway. So we had a good meeting with OMWD today. They are similar to what they had a couple of months back on El Camino north of Encinitas Boulevard, where they had to trench El Camino, add a new pipe in. They have a similar project east of the freeway, right at the gas station. It starts from the gas station, goes all the way up to the tennis club drive. Where is tennis club? It's like north of Manchester.
Oh, over by the Lux and...
Yeah, it's... So after north of Manchester, it's... so they start from this gas station here and they go all the way. It's again on the northbound side. So we are internally checking the opportunity of if they do repave, because they will only repave 2/3. That's where the trench area and so they're not going to cover full northbound. If they repave the northbound 2/3 of it, what our options are? Can they reimburse us for that piece and we just do the whole road and restripe the road? Or if they have to do their piece and then we come and do the remaining 1/3 of the northbound and then the complete southbound. So this meeting was about coming to some sort of an agreement about what they should cover and what they will cover and how we can kind of piggyback off of their project to restripe. But it's a good opportunity that we will not miss it. And we will certainly improve El Camino Real with narrowing lanes and adding bike buffers and all the good stuff that we usually do. This is something that will happen.
I have a question on that, Commissioner. All right, so can you share some timing? I mean, we're coming across, there's been, I don't know, sewer at the intersection of Manchester and Encinitas Boulevard. It's been taking at least a year. Now we're talking about Manchester to the freeway. The freeway on-ramp's just been a complete mess for a few years now. So how long, when will they start? How long do you think it'll take? Because there's been construction at the university or near Costa. I mean, this has just been kind of a mess for quite a long time. So just an update on,
That's correct. Unfortunately, these are, I guess, happening, different entities are, like the one that is currently causing the situation at the on and off ramps is the Caltrans project, the Build NCC, west of the freeway. This one is OMWD. The other one that was in front of the college, that was a development project, was a different project. The one at the school district site at the intersection of Rancho Santa Fe and South Rancho Santa Fe and Manchester, that intersection, that was OMWD, but that was pretty short. That was, I guess, less than a month. But this one is a pretty long stretch, so, and we usually don't allow night work. We might allow this one because there's not much residential going on here. If we allow them night work and day work, it might be a little bit faster.
There was night work at the intersects by the school district offices across from Harvest Ranch. There was a lot of night work.
Yeah.
I was coming home at night and there were holes in the ground. The stoplights start blinking and it becomes.
There's also not that much residential over there.
Right.
Yeah, usually when there's not much residential, I mean, if there's like one or two houses, it would be inevitable, like we got to make it work. But if it's like in a residential area, we 99% don't allow night work.
Well, I don't live on Pepper Tree Lane, but I'm sure they had something to say about it. But
No.
nonetheless, it happened at night, but
Yeah.
that's fine. But
So this one,
that's a lot of work.
the schedule they gave us today was, I think they wanted to go out to bid in March, April. So if they go out to bid then, within 2 months, they would start construction. So definitely before the end of the year.
Well, from a traffic and mobility standpoint, if you continue to impact that intersection to get on and off the freeway, then all we're going to do is just push everybody into all the other neighborhoods. Or I guess people in Rancho Santa Fe can live with me driving down La Bajada and La Noria all the way to Solana Beach to get on the freeway. So that's just the way it works.
If I'm not mistaken, east of the gas station, they are taking out just the number 1 lane, leaving the outside. In front of college, they're taking out the bike lane and the shoulder and the outer lane and leaving the number 1 lane in place. So it kind of shifts. The trench is not in the middle of the road. The trench starts from by the median, by the gas station, by the center of the road, and then drifts toward the edge. In front of the college, it stays on the east side.
But just so you, I mean, as you know, from a traffic standpoint, during peak traffic season, getting on the freeway backs all the way up to the college. So you start making all that 1 lane. If anybody wants to go through Manchester and there's only 1 lane, then you cannot then get under Manchester. You can't get under the freeway and get to Cardiff. So, there will be a cause and effect, as you always know. But if you take Manchester from Rancho Santa Fe Road all the way to the freeway and make that 1 lane, you've got the university, you've got the churches, you've got the temple, you've got some assisted living facilities. Yeah, I know has to happen, but there's going to be some spillover effect into a lot of other places during that construction, and I don't know how people are going to get on and off the freeway and get to work.
Just to clarify, I think I wasn't clear enough. Westbound or southbound, however you want to call it, will not be affected. It's only eastbound/northbound. So their work is not going to affect westbound
So it's
at all.
not westbound to the freeway, it's just getting off the freeway, going home, it's going to be 1 lane.
From
And we'll
from
lose
the gas station toward Manchester and toward North El Camino. That's the path.
And you lose the bike lane.
And that's on the lagoon side.
Yes.
I said when it starts from the center, but it kind of shifts toward the edge, toward the lagoon, yes. The further north you go, in the first couple 100 feet, it's around the center, and then it kind of moves toward the edge, toward the outer lane and the bikeway.
And this is a water district project?
Correct.
And this is the first I've heard of this. What a mess. Okay.
It's very, they're telling us it's very similar to what happened north of Encinitas.
So which department in the city has information?
They had a meeting today with us, presented the plans. I guess they sent us the plans per se. They just talked about the project, but it's not like presented to us in detail. We're supposed to review the plans. I'm not sure if I guess it's a public, well, if it's draft, it might not be a public records, but I'll check with management. If it's a public record, obviously I can just send it to the commissioners for them. There's a traffic control plans attached to it, and there's their sewer project. There are a few laterals going from the northbound side to the west side of El Camino, a few lateral pipes, but they are minimal. They're not that many. They're saying it's a grant too, so they're.
It's the water, it's OMD, it's Levenheim Municipal Water District. It's not the San Alejo.
No, it's OMWD.
District.
It's OMWD, yeah, water district, yes. But yeah, we will certainly use that opportunity to improve our stuff.
Okay. Commissioners?
I have
Thank
a
you, Ed.
question. Yeah.
Commissioner Von Neumann.
Item number 38, which is the crosswalk evaluations at several intersections in the city. This has been on our log for over a year, and I think it's, I don't understand why it's been on the log for over a year and we can't get any action moving forward on it. I am a bit frustrated by it, respectfully frustrated. There's one location on there, like at the border between Solana Beach and Cardiff. There needs to be a crosswalk that connects the paths from the lagoon to the beach. There are people running across 4 lanes of traffic to get from the end of the from the Harbaugh Trails section in Solana Beach over to the seaside. And there just has to be some way we can get a crosswalk in there so people can access that will also slow traffic down as they're entering Cardiff. Their speed limit goes from Solana Beach, I don't know if it's 40 or 45, down to 35, right at that border, and there is nothing there to slow cars down. And if anyone drives on that stretch, the majority of cars are not following the speed limit.
It's downhill.
It's just a super dangerous thing, and I'm just concerned, we keep putting it off longer and longer, there's more of an opportunity for something really bad to happen there. I know enforcement is a big issue, and it's a requirement, but I don't see enforcement going there whenever I drive there. I haven't seen enforcement, and all I see is cars driving 45, 50 miles an hour there, and people trying to run across the street to get to the beach from Harbaugh Trails and the lagoon. And I would think that would be a major safety issue for that. And it's just frustrating that all of this is taking over a year to move forward on it. Thank you.
I think I can provide some information. With regards to the delay, as you know, most of the items on the log are tackled a little bit faster than this. I do understand this one was sitting. The first few months, it was right in the middle of pandemic, and we were working from home, and a lot of people were working from home, and there was really not much activity on the road, not vehicle traffic, not pedestrian traffic. So we didn't do any of our standard surveys, data collections, the first few months of last year. After the vaccination, I guess maybe like after summer last year, we started coming back and doing more surveys and data collection. That's where we started collecting videos. For each one of these locations, we collected a few days of data. They are being reviewed by our intern. They go over, count the number of pedestrians that use these locations, count the number of cars. So there's a lot of video recording processing. Basically, somebody manually watches them. So the data collection has happened. The evaluation is happened. When we took our previous work plan, think it was like 4 or 5 months ago when we talked about the work plan. This did not go into our work plan because of the anticipated cost that this would have. So we decided to, if I bring it here to the commission and commission says, oh, we like it, I can't do anything about it until next July, basically just not having the funding for it. That specific location that you mentioned, interestingly, we met with the Solana Beach Engineering Director last week and their traffic engineer. It was I, myself, Jill, another one of our CIP team members. We talked in length about that location. There are some concepts that they have that they're considering some sort of a Z crossing similar to what we have on El Camino. Their suggestion was RFB, and they wanted to see if the city is receptive to the idea to get into some sort of a mutual agreement in doing something there to connect, as you said. Commission knows that we won a grant in $700,000 last year to build a walkway between the beach parking lot access and Solana Beach. So the goal was, hey, when you're building this walkway, can you also build this Z crossing to connect it to the harbor entrance, to the trail entrance on the west side, right at the border of the two cities? And my suggestion to them was, we'll certainly look at this, but we want a signal there. We want a pedestrian signal that is active control, that is clear for drivers, that they have to stop here. It's not like, hey, maybe I yield, maybe I don't yield. RFB, as you mentioned, the speed over there is pretty high. The nearest signal on our side is Los Olas. The nearest signal on their side is Solana Vista, which is like 3 blocks away. So people build up quite the speed when they get to that potential crossing there. It's not like we have a very close signal that they can't build up speed. So I said, I want a signal there. If we want to take it to our council to get in some sort of a mutual agreement with you, we want to make sure that we're doing the safest and best thing. We don't want to do, if two cities together are doing something, we can't do something half version. We got to do the full version. The conversations are happening. We got their concept. They're supposed to check grounds to see if they can find something a little bit bigger. We are checking options. One good thing that we heard was that they were able to, 10 days ago, go to council and lower the speed limit on that stretch. So now it's continuous. 35 in our city goes to 35 there, and in their downtown it was already 35. So it's a continuous stretch of 35 now. So we don't have that situation where 45 comes to our city. It will be 35. We are looking at things. We are. It's very early. It's not really there. But the idea was to maybe hire a consultant to do a full-on design and cost estimate for the two cities, to talk to their councils and say, hey, we have this great opportunity at the border of the two cities, and see if the two councils are willing to fund something. Because the signal is going to be about $200,000-300,000.
Commissioner Von Neumann, would you consider prioritizing to give guidance to the department on what you think is the most, would you consider prioritizing your list for the department so that they can put their resources to things that you feel that are most important? Clearly, they're all very important. It may be hard to prioritize, but giving direction to staff on, I agree with you. The harbor is a critical path item. You spend millions of dollars to get the coast-to-coast trail, and then you can't get to the coast. It seems kind of...
Well, if I were king of the forest, yeah, that would be number one.
Okay. I'm just trying to maybe prioritize so that whatever scant resources are available might get action items taken care of.
Well, isn't the point, I think Abe said a couple times, that this is not on the work plan, and it can't be on the work plan right until July. So, I just think that that's part of the problem too, right? That it's not there and it is not funded. I agree. I think all of these are really important. And your department has been so great at getting grants. It would be, I don't know if this is something that could be funded by the grants, but all of these crosswalks I think are very important. It depends on, I run and I use all parts of the neighborhood, but the ones on La Costa, we I think just got an email today about more concerns about safety on La Costa, and there is no safe way to get across La Costa Avenue. So, I mean, I feel like all of these are important, and how can we get them prioritized would be great, but I think more than that is how do we get the funding sooner than July would probably be the biggest question in my mind. And if there is, I'm glad they're still on this list, and let's keep talking about them because it brings it to the forefront of not only our attention, but how important it is, because I think many neighbors in all of these neighborhoods want safe passage. And this is just, you know, I realize I think they're $30,000 each, but it's a lot cheaper than a light signal to put in, one of these, so that, compared to the $200,000, I feel like you get a lot more bang for your buck, and you can slow the traffic here. You can get 6 of those instead of just one light signal, so just, I agree, let's prioritize, but how do we fund them is the question.
And I'm not sure I want to prioritize them. I think they're all very important. And the raised site crosswalks on 101 in northern Lucadia have made a huge difference.
A huge difference.
I can now walk across the road without.
I don't know how much those cost, but those are the most amazing transformation in our neck of the woods. I mean, because we still have no streetscape. So I agree, and I agree.
And they happened quickly.
It did. I feel like prioritizing them makes other areas
Losers.
Yes, and I don't know if I feel like, sorry, I turned my speaker off. I don't know if I feel like saying that, because I get a little.
North Lucadia is feeling very neglected, and if we prioritize and put La Costa Avenue at the bottom of the list, they're going to have a fit.
I would have a fit. That's.
So one thing to, again, re-clarify is that these are all classified roads per our current council-approved policy. We cannot put raised crosswalks there without direct council approval. So we would have to have, I guess, because we are all pretty sure that our fire department will not like to see more raised speed tables in the city. So there is a very good chance of our fire department not liking these. I can't say all of them, but there is a good chance that they might like most of them. So we would need, I guess, some sort of a prioritization. When I come in, I guess, back with the data, we can go over and we can just talk about how we want to present this to council. But that would be the opportunity to take it to council for approval, prioritization, and funding. And if at that point council want to approve or reject some of them, they have a better idea of what we think would be the best.
Okay.
On this list, I don't see a sidewalk on La Costa Avenue, and I thought it was supposed to stay on the list. Has it just gone the way of all good things?
I mean, La Costa Walkway is happening again. It's
Is the sidewalk, it's different?
La Costa sidewalk. So, so we had some meetings that I don't know if it's like a confidential thing or not. It was with our attorneys. To the level I can say is we have conducted a study. We've hired a consultant, traffic engineering team has, to evaluate intersection control at Sheridan and Vulcan on La Costa, and how the 101 signal will work with different scenarios of intersection control at Vulcan and at Sheridan, being neighborhood roundabout, circle, traffic signal at each one of these, and what the level of service of the corridor would be, and what the best cross-section of La Costa would be, one lane in each direction, with or without a two-way left turn lane in the middle. So this engineering company modeled it and provided us some recommendations. How it will work with our mobility element, which is in charge of providing the city with cross-sections of different roads. The mobility element consultant is in charge of that. They're supposed to, and they were directed by the city council to take care of La Costa first, to do it sooner. So they're supposed to give the city a clear idea of what should be done with La Costa. How many lanes, with or without two-way left turn lane, sidewalks, bike lanes, buffers, what the width should be, how it should be built. Because we do have some right-of-way. I think the city has like 50 feet or something of right-of-way, or 60 maybe, I don't know. But we do have the right-of-way. But do we need to do more land acquisition to make the road even wider? Is what we have is enough? How it's supposed to be ultimately built, that is supposed to come from the mobility element, which is not done. And at the same time, we have this city council work group, I believe it's Councilmember Mosca and Councilmember Krantz, that are supposed to discuss with the city of Carlsbad with the Ponto EIR settlement agreement. There is a settlement between us and city of Carlsbad that they're supposed to provide funding for certain improvements on La Costa to mitigate the potential impacts of Ponto development. So all these three are working together. Our attorneys are working together to come up, I guess, with the ultimate plan for La Costa. These are the stuff that are happening. But yeah, I
hear that that's going on. And
there is a lot going on, but yeah, I don't want to say more than I'm allowed to say, and I don't know how much I'm allowed to say. So
So it's better to be careful.
I'll just stick to the stuff that I myself did that I know is public record. So if I attend somewhere, if there's no attorney there, that's considered public record. So.
Thank you.
Can I move, are we, oh, sorry.
It's
I was
okay.
gonna say, we're not on the last one. I apologize. Are we on the item or no?
No, we're on the follow-up log. Anything else on the follow-up log, or should I move us to Commissioner Corner?
Well, Mary, you had said, why isn't the sidewalk on the follow-up log? Does it need to go back on there?
It needs to go back on.
Okay.
Did we ever have a sidewalk on La Costa on the log?
I thought we had talked about, someone called it like La Costa Streetscape or something. Maybe a public speaker, and we added something to that effect, like just looking at fixing La Costa, basically, everything. And it included the sidewalk, it included, what to do at Sheridan, it included, just the whole corridor, basically. I thought that's what the follow-up log item was.
Well, I can add something similar to Rancho Santa Fe, like provide monthly update on what's the status and what's going on. It's a little bit beyond my authority to do something like it's way bigger than like my total department budget. Division budget is about $1 million a year. That won't cover one block there.
So the sidewalk will go back on there so it needs 3 commissioners to put it on the log, and you're 1.
I'm 1.
You're 2. You're 3. I'm 4.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think the updates are great. They're very helpful. We know you don't know everything, you can't say everything, but just that information alone was more than we had.
And I think it's also obvious that the traffic department needs more resources.
Okay. Hearing no further comments, I will move us to Commissioner Corner. The only thing I would say in Commissioner Corner, and I wasn't sure if this was appropriate during the follow-up log, but the all-way stop controlled intersection at Vulcan and La Costa, which I believe I was the only no vote on, I'm going to swallow my pride on that one and say that it actually works very well. I was waiting to see if there was a day that it just didn't work and I could come tell you, Abe, but whatever you did with retiming the light, that totally works. So I was wrong, everybody. And good interim improvement.
I'm glad to hear it. Thank you.
Anybody else? I think we should discuss adding anything to the follow. Well, no, I guess we already went through that. Anything else for
About the
Commissioner
Clark
Corner?
project?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I mean,
think we
if
should
that's the plan for Clark to be presented, I think it needs to get on the log and needs the same 3 votes. And the only caveat is, as Jill mentioned, let me check with our higher-ups to see.
Sure, but we can put it on there.
Correct.
So I propose, and do I have any other supporters? A few, okay.
Okay, there we go.
Can we ask that, if possible, can we have a presentation at our next commission meeting if it's or does it have to go on the log and then we ask for a presentation?
No. I will remember, obviously, we want the presentation before the planning commission, so if I get the green light, I will bring it next meeting.
Thank you very much, Abe.
Hopefully,
Abe-
it's before their planning
Abe,
commission.
do we know when that is scheduled for planning commission?
No, I don't, but I do know that it's being discussed internally as we speak.
Okay,
To get a date. When it is, I don't know.
got it. Okay.
Meyer property, David Meyer?
I don't
Yes.
know.
We got an email some time ago from a lady named Mrs. Mesh, I believe her name is, about a path up to,
The Community and Senior Center?
to the senior center. Is that our purview or is that Parks and Rec? She wrote a very thoughtful letter, because she just wants that, she wants a path. But the path was closed by somebody, because they said kids were coming too fast down to the parking lot. Is that, trails sound to me like mobility, but is that our purview or not?
Well, is this different from what I believe Darius Dager proposed a while back, that some east-west connection which went past the senior center to the, this is
No.
different?
The letter was from Martha. She and her husband, Ellis, they live on Seaman Drive, and they access the senior center for senior lunches, and they would walk up to the intersection of Encinitas Boulevard and Ballore and get onto the the east side of Ballore, and then there was a path that they could take up to the Community and Senior Center, and this path actually ended up going by where the new homeless parking lot is going to be. And it wasn't a cement path or anything, but that's what they used. And then one day they came and it was blocked off, and there was new planting and everything in this walkway, which forced them to walk all the way down to the corner that goes up to Oakcrest. So it basically at least doubled their walking, and they're not the youngest people and everything. And she wrote a very good letter about why did this happen and what the response was from the city, and she had a couple of proposals and all. And when I read this and everything, I was very sympathetic, obviously, to her situation. And there's really the only way to access the senior center is by car, which kind of goes against the whole idea of the mobility and trying to improve different methods of mobility in our city.
Especially for seniors.
Yeah, and if somebody wants to walk to the Community and Senior Center around 3:15 in the afternoon, good luck being a salmon up through all the kids walking and the parents picking their people up. So, I don't know if we have any control or anything on where a walking path is, but I'm very sympathetic to her. And I just don't know what department, I don't know if it's Parks and Rec, like you said, that can do it, but it's a mobility issue. And
Could you pull the map up, Dave? Just so we can get an idea of where the cut through is. Would you mind?
yeah, I'd be happy to.
Just help I'm a visual person. I don't know every street corner in town yet.
Right.
Well, I just wonder if it was a liability issue too, if it's not a designated path that's there and they're cutting through, so maybe that's why it was replanted, I'm not sure. So either it gets turned into a real path, that probably is.
Looked to me like it was a pretty good path.
It was a path. I mean, it was designed and constructed as a path.
Oh, well, okay. Good. I was imagining just a.
No, it wasn't a goat trail.
It wasn't a goat trail. That's what we have on Vulcan Avenue.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Commissioner Von Neumann, can you help me with,
Okay,
you read the letter, so.
So basically, if you go south, go farther south.
Thank you for driving.
Okay, well, back a little That's where the path, that's where the path was.
That's a path.
That is the path.
They even have erosion control.
Right. So what the city did was they put planting in the path, and they put I don't know, a gate, not even a gate, but something there.
Something to impede the path.
Yes, they took the path away, is essentially what I'm saying. And Martha wrote a really nice letter and everything, and she actually even has some suggestions about how to make sure that bicycles don't go on that path. You know? Yeah, and I think it was, I don't know what part of the city needs to take a look at the situation. But like I said, I'm very sympathetic to it.
Yeah, it sounds like Parks and Rec.
Yeah, if I wanted to guess, I would say Park and Rec, but I can certainly look into it and see how it happened and who made the decision. I mean, I can see how it can be a liability, especially with kids. Oakcrest, they might use this as a shortcut instead of coming down Oakcrest. And
Sure they were.
yeah, and then when they come down, if they're on their scooters, I don't know, on their e-bikes, coming down straight toward the road. Yeah, yeah.
Right. A gate. What you call it, an English gate or something like a garden gate? Yeah. So we should probably recommend that she pursues it with Parks and Rec, right? I know.
Well, I can. Amanda, you do have the person's contact info?
I'm not sure. What was the name again?
Martha Leach, Leche, and she says it's pronounced Lesh. Her husband is Ellis.
Is this something I forwarded?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can find it.
So yeah, we'll get to the bottom. We'll figure out what has happened and how it happened, and then contact the resident and clarify.
Yeah, it's disappointing when mobility is removed.
Yeah, since it is the first word in our commission.
Mhm.
I'm going to have to be going, and I'm sorry to see you leaving, Brian. You have done a fabulous job.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys can carry on it'll be fine without me.
Termed out is something you can't argue.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't have a choice. All right. Well, yeah, it's been great working with all of you, and I'm sure you'll be just fine without me. And maybe I'll come and have a few words at some point if there's something thrilling on the agenda to drag me over here.
I hope so. I have some other items on Commissioner Corner, though.
Of
Sorry.
course you do. All right.
Thanks, Mary Lou.
I'll give you 3.5 minutes. How about that?
On each one?
No.
Okay, let's see. There is a bike lane on Santa Fe at the intersection of Bonita, right where San Diego Academy is, that cars every day park in the bike lane. I have a picture of that, and it's going westbound, and it's at the corner, and like I said, I have a picture of it somewhere on that computer over there. And I've called the sheriff's department multiple times to inform them of it, and they continue to do it. I don't know if there are cars that are parked there right next to a no parking sign. They're parked right next to the bike lane on the road, and it happens every single day.
Same car?
No, different cars. Yeah, when I call the sheriffs, they ask, well, what kind of car? I go, one with 4 wheels, and it doesn't really matter. But I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, their cars are parking in the bike lane. There's also a speed hump on Glen Arbor. I love speed humps, by the way. I think they're great to slow traffic down, but there's one speed hump on Glen Arbor that essentially forces everybody to go into the center median to avoid it.
They drive around it.
Right, and I would say remove it because it's not doing anything other than creating a hazard. And I have a picture of that also up on the computer somewhere in there.
Was there a sister? Is there like a staggered one? Or is it
No, it's just one right in the driver's lane, and then and then next to that is a vertical bollard, and then there's the bike lane, and on the other side of the bike lane is another vertical bollard, and then there's the parking area, you know, where people can park next to the curb. So people are coming down, and it's on a downhill, they see that, and they drive around it. So it's not performing any function other than to creating a possible maneuver hazard. So I don't know what can be done about that, Abe. And I'm sure you've heard about it before. And the only other thing was, what is the city doing with the AB 43, the new speed limit law that gets rid of the 85th percentile? Is that going to help us? I know you spent a lot of time reviewing speed limits in the city, and we actually recommended certain streets to have posted on a lower speed limit, but AB 43 passed, and are we doing anything with that to lower our speeds?
So
Can I answer that question? AB 43 was passed by the legislature, but it does require some other action to update the motor code. And that'll take a couple of years, apparently.
Correct, yeah. I wanted to mention something similar. So on the first one, the bike lane on Santa Fe, I do believe Ian submitted a work order to Public Works to do the red curbing, because I did see that email that sheriff said they cannot enforce because of the width and the fact that there is enough space left for the bikers to pass by, but I did ask for the red curbing. The speed hump on Glen Arbor, we'll look at it. I'm not aware of it. We'll look at to see what's going on and why it's causing the situation. If it needs to be modified or removed, we'll look at it. With the AB 43, we had a meeting with our attorney to go over AB 43 and the options. I guess it's fortunate that some changes are happening. Unfortunate that, as Glenn mentioned, right now our hands are pretty tied. There's no, the clear language of the code is you cannot do certain things until some other stuff are happening, have happened, which then they give a deadline of 2024 or something. So we are going back to the previous plan. We initially wanted to implement AB 43 instead of doing that other thing that, if you recall, was commission approved. The report is ready on that, was to take off certain roads off of the state map to authorize the city to convert them to residential roads and 25 mile per hour prima facie speed limit. But that had some disadvantages to it. Because of that, we thought this might be a better path. But the fact that, with consulting with our attorneys, we found that it wasn't as good as it looked. AB 43 is not that good. It's good, but there's nothing that we can do right now. So we are taking that previous route for now, for at least the next 3 years, which is San Alejo and Vulcan as a pilot, being taken off the state map if approved by council, and then converted to a prima facie 25.
Yeah, lowering speed limits is one of my major interests in everything. And if New York City can set a prima facie speed limit of 25 in their city, I don't know why we can't do the same. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Corner. Commissioner Prendergast.
There's a back road between Elf and Forest Road called Canyon de Oro that then connects with Fortuna Ranch Road. That's now fully paved. So it used to be dirt. It's county back past the Shea project that went up the hill towards the water tower. So that's fully paved now. So we're getting a lot more traffic down Fortuna Ranch Road onto Lone Jack. So the statistics, it's now fully paved. It used to be a dirt road, it used to be washed out road, and now it's fully paved. And it's actually fully paved up the hill to the radio station antennas, then down the hill over the creek and all the way to the back gate of the bridges. So it's all fully paved from Elfin Forest into Encinitas, and it's fully paved from the bridges all the way, well, actually not all the way from the bridges. It's partly dirt, but then it's paved when it gets down to those houses down by the creek. So we're seeing a lot more traffic on Fortuna Ranch Road. That then dumps out into Lone Jack, and we're seeing a lot more backup as you get to that intersection at Rancho Santa Fe Road and Fortuna Ranch Road. or Lone Jack. So just a comment on that. I don't think we can do anything, but as you guys look at traffic counts, as the fire department starts to look at response times, you know, we start looking at evacuation issues. You know, if people are going to start coming out of Elfin Forest, down to Rancho Santa Fe Road, down Lone Jack, past the Goodson project, you know, which our fire commissioner thinks, our fire chief doesn't think is a problem, we do have a problem. And there's a lot more cars coming than there used to be. So just an FYI on traffic. Thank you for the signs for the horses on Lone Jack. Those new, you put up a bunch of Dayglow signs, which has been great because we haven't had an accident in a little while on the horses, so that's appreciative. You also painted a red curb on Fortuna Ranch Road, which I'm sure some of the neighbors in that neighborhood, because there's now a business operating in a barn, which people were parking on both sides, which narrowed, just like the people on Clark. So that's working. So that's fairly new. Thank you very much. The sheriff wasn't here tonight, but we have an issue on Fortuna Ranch Road, or excuse me, on Lone Jack, when there's accidents. When a couple days ago, a truck on the hairpin turn, not the hairpin turn, but right about Crystal Ridge, a box truck got stuck trying to go up the hill. That shut down the road, so you had no ingress and egress down Lone Jack. So if you got hurt, if you had to have an ambulance, the sheriff shows up. My wife gets out of the car, goes to the sheriff and said, hey, are you going to open the gate on Double L so we can all get out, just in case, heaven forbid, a fire or an ambulance needs to get here? And the sheriff says, I can't do that. That's a private road. Like, no, that's the defined exit out of here when there's problems. And the sheriff had no idea. And we said, well, call the fire department. I'm not authorized to do that. And this has always been an issue on traffic safety and evacuation and all these other issues when the sheriff department doesn't even know how to open the back gate. So what can we do as a commission to inform the sheriff, if there's an accident, blocking Lone Jack, the only way to get in and out, and the sheriff's like, I don't know how to open the gate.
We can certainly notify sheriff of this.
I'd love to be able to do that and send a letter from the commission to the sheriff's department and say, look, if your cops are out there, this is what you're supposed, this is the protocol. And for them to be sitting around a sheriff watching a tow truck with cars lined up a mile each way doesn't seem very, very smart. So those are my things. Thank you very much. Appreciate you listening. Thanks.
Commissioner Johnson?
Oh, there, finger got it. Okay, up until last November's meeting, I guess we had a subcommittee on the mobility element, and we've been overtaken by events because we were off 2 weeks. The city council did have a presentation from an associate planner, JDAC, on, when was it, November 10th. And the video and PowerPoint are on the city council agenda if you want to know more about the status of that. But obviously, it's in the last 3 months, it's changed. And I guess the subcommittee must be dissolved, right? Or do we want to keep it going?
It's up to you.
Let's keep it going.
Okay.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I mean, even though we are not, the traffic department is not involved in the developing of the mobility element, I think it's our responsibility to be involved in it, aware of it, and be able to make comments on it.
Yeah, well, the citizens will be involved in it too.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to move to adjournment. Oh, Commissioner Von Neumann? Are you waiting for adjournment?
I just wanted to thank you, Brian, for all
you.
your years of service. And I started coming to these meetings just as a resident and everything. And you always are very knowledgeable, very diplomatic, and have a good understanding of how things work. And I learned a lot from you. And I follow some of it, but obviously I don't follow all of it. But thank you very, very much, and good luck with everything, and glad you got your bike back.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, I'll miss you guys. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Commissioner Trouth, do we need to? Let's do it just one more time.
One more time.
Your last time.
Someone's got to vote no at some point.
Prendergast. Should I make the motion and then vote against myself?
Last one. Really?
I did. I motioned.
Yes. There we go. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you. There we go. Someone had to do it.
Exactly. It's your send-off.